Hi, baby. I know I need both my hands though, baby. Oh, I know. Meow, meow, meow. Oh man. You chilling, baby? You okay? Okay, jeez. Yeah, what's up? I'm getting catted right now. She's basically okay. How do I show this? You're not making this easy for me, little guy. Okay, cool. She's just purring right now. Camera, camera, camera. Boo. There she is. Just chilling. She does not want to go to sleep right now. She wants to be right in my arms. That's what she wants. Right on my fucking belly, basically. She's trying to doze off right now, but obviously she does not want to right now. Probably because I'm much warmer than the bed. I wish I had, like, the ability to control separate rooms in my apartment in terms of, heating and air conditioning and whatnot. Because I know that cats, they do like it when it's a little warmer and whatnot. Okay, I'll let her stay in the arms a little bit. If only I could sit flat on my chair, but I can't, baby. I know, baby. Stay on my lap. There you go. I just need the free hand. Good girl. Let her stay like this for a little bit, and then I'll put her in her bed. Oh, man. Okay, lovely. Well, Kitty's in the lap right now and she's just chilling. Last time she did go to sleep around this time. She stayed in the bed. This time she doesn't want to. Okay. Probably need to grab more motors, concrete as well. Did I say plastic? I don't know, I said plastic. Do not know why I said that. Okay, I'll let the cat sleep on my lap for a little bit, and then I'll take her to her bed, where she should be sleeping. Ay, ay, ay. I got a lap kitten while streaming. She has learned to start going to bed on the cat bed on her own sometimes, but she much prefers on my person, probably because I'm very warm. Very, very warm. But she's been getting better at walking and has been a lot more coordinated with her steps and started running around a lot more. It's going to change more and more as I get older, obviously, but for the time being, I only have her confined to my room specifically, and to not touch any of my cables, because cat and cables, never a good thing. I'll have to eventually get some like cat-proof, cat-proof cabling stuff and whatnot. But that's a later problem. For now, it's not necessary. But otherwise, she's just chilling. Tomorrow's also going to be a really big day in terms of all the primaries. Lots of big primaries happening. I'm going to eventually move her to her bed. Eventually. But I'll let her just stay here for a while. It's because the air conditioning's just a little cold in here. Probably also doesn't help that I have the window open. I'll put her down in her bed and then close close the window because it's getting a little cold now. Nyao Roomba. Well, that doesn't make any sense because I'm not the cat. I just own a cat. So like that just doesn't make any sense, you know? Okay. Okay, Tina. Sorry, baby, you woke up? Just need to put you here for a little bit, okay? We'll close the door. Alright, cool. What's up, you 235? Okay, she's chilling in her bed. Never mind. Oh no, she's trying to go to sleep. Okay, that's fine. What do you want, you 235? She's taken to the bed very, very nicely. Like, you know, the first initial day I let her just sleep on my lap, just you know, get accustomed and everything. She's doing pretty alright, actually. I mean, she clings to me constantly, because, I mean, she knows I'm her main source of food. She's doing quite well, honestly. Well, it's because she's 3 weeks old. It's normal. She was taken from her mother, obviously, at 3 weeks old, which isn't necessarily recommended, of course. It's better at about 8 weeks. But which means I have to, like, litter train her and everything. Which is, you know, it's a task. I mean, she had 2 accidents today. It's not the worst. What's up, Big Jerry? She did have 2 accidents today. I'm trying to get her to adjust to the litter box and everything. What my mom suggested to do was take one of her, you know, when she pisses on the floor, to take a paper towel and essentially put it in the litter box, so then she associates piss with the litter box, which I'm just like, ooh, that's smart, right? Every time I take her to the litter box, she just goes in there and she just tries to eat the litter. I'm just like, okay, don't do that. It's bad. Do not eat the litter. It may be like walnut shells, but you still shouldn't eat it. It's not good. But that's going to be the plan for the time being. She started scratching a lot more. Lots of scratching. We may have to get a scratching post for her soon. I know that I've been reading, of course, that the time to begin nail clipping is around 4 to 6 weeks. Around that. So there's that. Okay, she's sleeping like a baby. Without a problem. But yeah, so far, I mean, you know, it's only been my first day with her. It's okay. Oh, excuse me. Good enough. Get her some catnip. That's way too early for cat drugs, okay? You can relax. I did get also another call today for another potential screening interview, so we'll see how that goes. I may get a call in 48 hours, but that's fine. So we'll see how that goes. But I think things are on the up and up, to be honest. Things are on the up and up. They keep dragging that shit on. I'm lucky I still have my job. That's true, yeah. You're probably too valuable, Boy Meets Mini, for you to get rid of. So, they'll probably never get rid of you, given your experience and what you do. If I were to take a guess, you're probably good. Unless, like, there's, like, a crazy recession that happens or something. I don't know. But I'm cringe. But that's a different story. Also, tomorrow is big important primary day. Lots of big important primaries tomorrow, of course. Yep, Abdul, the guy from Michigan's 13th, Donovan McKinney, I think his name is. It's Donovan something. Black dude, Detroit, is going up against Shreve Tandar. McKinney, okay, I was correct. There's Donovan McKinney, there's Corey Bush. Who else? Francesca Hong. We'll bring up some blurbs about Francesca Hong, probably. Putis! We're getting fucking Putis spammed. I'm like questioning if I should cover her with a blanket or not. Because it just looks like she's like all curled up and she might be kind of cold. I don't know. Because I know why she wants to sleep on myself. The reason for as to why she wants to is because I'm a massive source of heat. And cats love they massive sources of heat. Get like some kind of warmer thing to make it more comfortable for her. My mom also came over to play with the cat. And she did say she's gonna start coming by more frequently to play with the cat. So that's nice, I guess. should consider burrito wrapping the cat. I could, yes. That would not be a bad idea, but I don't want to disturb her right now. She's falling asleep, or fallen asleep. For the time being, I may turn up the heat a little bit for the cat, which, I mean, it's going to be more uncomfortable for myself, but that's really fine. I don't really care. You were getting oil, by the way. We need some oil, folks. I'm probably going to use mostly the residual stuff. Because if I recall correctly, valves... Yeah, limits pipeline flow rates can be attached to a pipeline. Has input-output direction. Okay. Well, the place I live in is, that missed? Oh, you have, like, 1 health left. Fuck you. Bro had like 0.1% of HP left. Okay, bro. Good one. Trolls fuck, man. That's unlucky. Okay, I went too close. That's my fault. Alright. You feeling extra putis today or something? U235? You're feeling very putis spammy. Clearly. Is there a thing of thorium here? Oh yeah, it's right there. Jesus. What a random place to put a thing of thorium. The fuck? Okay. Okay, I think we're good here. Yeah, Boy Meets Minnie is gonna have the same West Hollywood mansion as Hassan Piker, as Hamas Piker, Ham Ass Pecker. Yeah, Hollywood wouldn't fuck with a brown boy like you, Boy Meets Minnie, even though you look like a fucking Cubano. That's not the correct term. Chicano. That's the correct term. Boy Meets Minnie, you wouldn't get mistaken by ICE for a Mexican migrant and then taken away by ICE, now would you? That would surely never happen. You're still doing that, Fox Fate. It's going to be interesting to see what they get for to do for Indo. The main leaker, or the main leak aggregator, has already talked about a bunch of the leaks from the reliable leaker about what may be on the horizon. Yes. Just says that. Yeah, just says that to be a bit of an asshole. Doesn't actually mean it, though. XD. Sure. No, I'm clearly being very genuine at all times. XD. How dare you assume I am a liar? I don't have enough cables. That's annoying. Doom. All right, let's build out the roads to here. And then do the meme. Get some oil. This area is going to be useful for a lot of stuff. The fuck's a peafowl? Oh, excuse me. Oh, it's a peacock. Okay. Well, let's not forget. Let's never forget. We are going to be getting 300 Pokemon in Gen 10, by the way. 300. Convergent, regional forms, and whatnot. Yep. That's what the leaks have said. 300. They said 300. I don't like that. I didn't make the save where I needed to make the save. That's fine. Not the end of the world. The fuck was that? Maybe jump a little. That was a little weird. Well, I mean, you know, Game Freak has a big old team of a lot of developers and writers and designers and whatnot. And I mean, each game is on a 3-year cycle. So, you know, you're in good company, I suppose. They sure have. Typically, it's like a small man team, right? And it's normally sprite work. I mean, there's a lot of like really crazy fan-made regions and ROM hacks. Pokemon Rejuvenation is one of them, which got its 14.0 update recently, by the way. Might play it one day on stream. Probably will. I've not done a Pokemon run in a very long time. Been mostly factoring Oreos and satisfying our factories. You like the Sea Glass run? The Sea Glass was unique. It was nothing like crazy in particular, just like a unique run. And like I mentioned before, the one like dude who mostly plays like all these challenge ROM hacks is a small It's a small YouTube channel called Ericu03. I have no idea if they're Romanian, whatever. But that guy basically just does like videos of all the boss fights of like ROM hacks and stuff. Like pretty much any ROM hack that dude can get their hands on. There's gonna be some videos from them about it. That's where I found Sea Glass, was from their channel. It was a good time. Yeah, Radical Red's not exactly, it's not grind central per se. I mean, it just takes a bit of time. But once you're set up, it's just like you can just print out the Pokemon you need. Emerald Imperium is obviously way better because you had the machine that just lets you program whatever EVs and IVs you want at no cost. So Emerald Imperium made things very quick and very easy in that particular respect. Radical Red just has like more Radical Red is basically the first of the very challenging ROM hack archetype that say like Emerald Imperium built on, right? After like years of Radical Red being out. You know, Radical Red, so a lot of these other, like, challenge ROM hacks, like, Kaizo games, and, like, Emerald Imperium, and all these other, like, very challenging games can run. Alright, she's peacefully sleeping. Yeah, she's in bed now. Let's see. How many of these do I have? Each one is 15 per 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Times 2, 20. So when we use wet concrete with the refinery, not only are we going to cut down on machines, but we'll actually be producing more with less machines. Right? Each mine we have is 240 per second. I think I have 4 mines connected, which means we can run 8 of these. Just merely a matter of getting the water, but that's pretty easy. And that'll be, what, 640 concrete per minute? Effectively doubling our output of concrete. Pretty good. Wet concrete's a really, really good recipe. It's a fantastic recipe. And it's cheap. Okay. That should more or less work. Okay. It's a good thing I got these extra blueprints here. That was a smart idea for me to do this. Still don't really understand how the individual managed to get these wall outlets on the double beam connectors, because you never want to snap onto the double beam connectors. I don't know why. It's very weird. Now, Boy Meets Minnie, you know a thing or two about building roads, don't you? You love building roads. Gets burnt out on Satisfactory. Doesn't even build many roads. My face one. How could Boy Meets Minnie betray the critical racing theorists like this? Inconceivable actions. one more right, and then we'll do some straights. I can only imagine. You know, every time I hear the word go, I just think of Wario from Smash Bros. You know, like him hopping on his motorcycle and being like, go! To be fair, building them is an engineer job. Who asked? I'm clearly a qualified engineer. What do you mean? Look at that curve. Looks nice. Of course, the road, the centered line is not exactly perfect, but whatever. Boy Meets Mini needs to train an apprentice. What is he, a fucking, like, is he working in, like, a workshop or something? Boy Meets Mini in a workshop? No, he's a mechanic, actually. He's a gray Jedi? Yeah, I don't know about that. What's up, Big Jerry? W. Oh, man. Well, Gray Jedi, even though, like, the kind of idea behind a Gray Jedi is, like, disputed within Star Wars lore, and it's kind of, like, weird, as well. The idea behind a Gray Jedi, or rather, with Boy Meets Mini being a Gray Jedi, what exact parts of the Dark Force the dark side of the Force, rather, would Boy Meets Mini even, like, have? Like, what exactly? Boy Meets Mini doesn't really come off as the overly emotional, power-hungry, power-mongering type. Like, not really. But he also likes dogmatic types. I mean, that's true. I'm mostly trying to think if the light side of the Force is supposed to be, like, very dogmatic, or if that's just mostly a thing with, like, the institution of the Jedi. Because that's a difference. Kind of. Yeah, but then that could be like Ahsoka Tano, and Ahsoka Tano is not like a gray Jedi per se. Not really. Like, it's the problem with the distinction of the gray Jedi. It's like, it's very malleable. It's very malleable and can be kind of used as like a catch-all, which is kind of the problem I think a lot of fans have with them, generally speaking, because you could just say the argument, just like, oh, this person's just a gray Jedi or whatever, to point out like potential plot holes or contradictions, which can be kind of annoying. Any steel beams? Oh, fuck. That might be a problem. It's already been an hour? Jesus. Damn it. Look who's awake. No, back to sleep. Okie dokie. I may have some potential use for this area. I'll stick a T here. Or I might just stick a 4-way. Yeah, I'll stick a 4-way here. No, you have to commit now. What were you going to say? Don't be a bitch. Commit. That's the only kind of 4-way you'll be involved with. Alright. What, Fox of Fate, you want to be like, to be given the distinction of YouTube commenter? That's a distinction you don't want. Because I don't know if you know anything about my YouTube commenters. They tend to be fucking idiots more often than not. Now, I mean, if you want to be a YouTube commenter, level, I mean, we can do that. That's fine. I could treat you as, like, dirt. But, I mean, you know, I'm just saying. Like, we can just go, like, full Bully McGuire, you know? No, it's fine, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's some bants, it's bants. Okay, don't worry about it. It's fine. Was I wrong? Yes. Clearly, I can get bitches, alright? Smile. I just opt not to for the moment. Smile.
We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
Yeah, we're doing some trolling, folks. I guess I shouldn't have removed half. That's fine. I have to go further back. Ick. Was I going to get some steel? Yes. Oh, also, by the way, Boy Meets Mini. Yes, steel beams specifically. I don't know if you. Wait, no, I think you told me about this. Hutch trying to say that Francesca Huang, or Hong rather, is a CCP asset. I just don't understand in like what way that sort of justification sort of is like. All right, just got run over. Yeah, I don't really know in what way that justification sort of comes about. It's very strange. Like apparently she had some like 7-minute Fox News interview, which like was apparently kind of cringy or something, and every like dumb fucking liberal is like having like a pissy hissy fit about it, like just a complete piss fit over that 7-minute interview. And I don't really know why. Because they keep running with the claim like, oh my god, Republicans are gonna run roughshod on us. And it's just like, okay, like here's the thing. You know what Donald Trump just recently said about the Michigan primary race between Abdul Al-Sayed and Haley Stevens? He said it's a race between a communist and a socialist. And he said the communist is about to win. Anyone with like half a brain cell can understand that none of those people, neither Abdul Al-Sayed or Haley Stevens, are socialists or communists. It's just it's nonsense, right? So like for all the like dumb fucking like I don't know, Democrats, quote unquote, who keep like having such hissy fits over Francesca Hong and also Abdul Al-Sayed, trying to call them all a bunch of socialists or whatever. DSA candidates, by the way, and apparently DSA is all white. But one's a Korean and one's an Egyptian. But sure, man, whatever. I find it particularly strange of a lot of the sort of like behaviors of the establishment and like all the blue MAGA weirdos to be saying, to essentially just be utilizing the exact same sort of smears that the GOP would use against their detractors. It's mostly as if they don't really care about having like a good candidate win, and in reality it's all about just, you know, the corporatocracy and bullshit is what these guys are mostly more interested in the preservation of. It's just like, you know, guys, you guys are really not beating the allegations of essentially just being like Republican light and functionally like no different than the Republican Party. Like, you guys are really not helping your sort of cases here. It's just very weird. Well, yeah, that's like the logic, Fox of Fate. Like, Hong is a Chinese last name, so therefore CCP, so therefore dislike them. It's just racist logic. Like, that's all that it is, right? Like, I mean, all of that stuff is also coming off of the heels of Hutch doing his whole sort of take of vote blue no matter who, but really indicating how these people just functionally speaking just have never really operated with any sort of like principles or beliefs whatsoever. It's all just like rah, random annoying team sports bullshit. It's very boring and uninteresting. It's one of those situations where it's just like, you know, for all the complaints these people constantly have about the quote-unquote left or whatever, you guys are doing basically everything possible to actively earn their ire and dislike, especially when these candidates generally speaking, are polling quite well in a lot of their primaries. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why a lot of these people behave in the ways they behave. It's just strange. Well, okay. I'm saying this all kind of rhetorically. I know why they're like this, right? It's because capital interests, blah 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 blah. But just for the sake of conversation, let's just pretend and just like turn our brains off to it, like temporarily speaking. Yeah, I just find it to be very annoying for the most part. It's just stupid. Can I somehow get the road? Maybe not a road. This place is very inconvenient. For all the liberals who constantly like to say, try to beat back the allegations of, cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds, the arch liberals are certainly not doing a good job at beating back those accusations. Like, I think recently there was like a Destiny clip saying that he might just start going full MAGA and shit like that. And he just might start becoming a conservative. And it's just like, I mean, he pretty much effectively is. I guess he's just decided to rip the Band-Aid off. So I am very much so not surprised by that. Yep, saw that. I mean, like, listen, the actions and consequences of our choices are now coming back to haunt us. And are making it such that we are adopting, like, positions that we inherently disagree with out of spite. It's just very silly, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, Francesca is a Korean American, but Hutch is just stupid. Like, yeah, I mean, Hutch is just a moron. Man, these curves are not turning fast enough. I don't know, Boy Meets Smitty. You might be sounding like too much of a CCP shill right now. I might have to ban you. CCP shill, Boy Meets Smitty. Probably plays way too much Genshin Impact. Maxor would never. Ugh. I really need to replace this old chair. I really need to find employment so I can replace my old chair. Alright, this definitely works. Lovely. Perfect curve. Now let's see if I regret the decision of making a ramp here or not. Alright, curve right. Ooh, this is perfect. This is looking pretty good, I have to say. I'm liking the... I'm liking where this is going. Oof. There's a crack. What? Alright, let's see if this is misplaced or not. Nah, so far so good. Oh boy, building a long road. Alright, this has fit perfectly. But now I'm out of materials. I do need to make some teas every now and again, because I want access to all of this lovely water. Put a T-junction here, actually. Because I need the agua. Good, good. Looks like it exactly fits. Fantastic. No, maybe not exactly. Right, these T's are fivers. Perfect. This will serve the purpose of a bunch of water nodes, because we'll need a bunch of water for stuff. I wonder why the think before you sleep short got age restricted. That one is perplexing to me. I don't know. Called him evil too much or something? I mean, he is evil. That's just a fact. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here's my tabs. We're gonna get started with this Fauci ouchie segment. Oh boy, time to Fauci our ouchies. Who's ready to Fauci our ouchies? Been doing this thing for long enough. At least today is going to be shorter than normal. I do have to make sure I wake up early, of course, so I can feed the cat. Obviously, it's important. I have damn responsibilities, damn it. But yeah, I woke up at 7 today. Fed the cat. Went back to sleep. No, I went back to sleep for like 3 hours, and then I woke up again. And, alright, fed the cat again. Because the cat also went back to sleep as well after I played with her for a little bit. More like I half played with her a little bit and just like gave her my hand to just like have her like walk around and shit like that while I was also like partially asleep, and then I fell asleep, and then she fell asleep. But we do a little bit of trolling. All right. Alarm. Like, eventually this will not be as bad. Once she gets to like 8 weeks old, it's just gonna be like this for about like a month and a bit. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world. All right. Move this here. Move that there. Lovely, fantastic. Alright, let's get started. So, as we all know, the Republican Party does not believe in the broader concept of public health. Why, you may be asking? Because they also don't believe in the broader concept of trust. And that's absolutely the case with RFK Jr. and Donald Trump. Of course, RFK Jr., we all know, current head of HHS, and basically, for lack of a better term, he's like doing everything possible in order to just undermine the concept of public health within the United States of America. That much is, I think, extremely obvious and very clear in terms of a lot of the policies that RFK Jr. has been adopting throughout his tenure, rather, as the current secretary of HHS. And I mean, he's been saying some recent insane, like, nutso things, like about like the measles outbreak and a bunch of like whooping cough outbreaks that are also happening now within the United States of America, mostly in, again, rural areas, or not necessarily rural areas, but in areas with very, very low vaccination rates. Like, I mean, for God's sake, kids are starting to die of measles again in the United States of America, and kids are getting fucking hospitalized and shit. It's pretty fucking bad, dude. And it's all because of these conspiratorial cranks at, like, Maha and HHS that are just currently running the show. Why? Because RFK Jr. seems to think that, well, if you just get some soup and have vitamin A, you'll be able to beat back measles. And it's just like, that's not how any of this works. Like, there's a vaccine, it works. Why are we doing this? But whatever. I do believe that the Maha coalition of the current Trump coalition is certainly falling apart because RFK Jr., in a position of power, unironically said that, well, glyphosates are a matter of national security, so we need to have glyphosates, while deregulating a bunch of pesticide companies at the behest of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is just evil and he wants people to, like, eat chemicals or something, or drink them or whatever. That's all besides the point. What we're mostly talking about here is Anthony Fauci, who's a part of this whole campaign by the GOP to essentially help to solidify this broader sort of distrust within public health, which should honestly, go without saying, is extremely bad for a lot of fucking goddamn reasons. Not having any trust in public health can have some very adverse downstream sort of effects and consequences. But did the GOP really care about any of that? No. And this is apparently about the leaked, I think this was like leaked by Rand Paul, I believe, the leaked Anthony Fauci diary, where he was like talking about his experience during COVID and whatnot. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, what is the purpose of this? Like, why are we having a hearing into Anthony Fauci's fucking diary, for God's sake, where he wrote about his experiences during the Trump administration or something? Show trials, just complete sham. Gotta get, something to get the keys out to jiggle them to the Republican sort of base. What do we got here?
Former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, who became the villain of the Republicans and of conservatives and the Maha movement during the COVID-19 pandemic, because he was in the administration trying to do basic public health, and the Republicans were jumping on the anti-vax train, and as well were mostly concerned with the idea that workers wouldn't be putting their health on the line to support business owners.
And again, real quick, I mean, this is a good point here by Emma, right? Like, it was like basically every Republican was like advocating for the reopening of the economy during COVID, like right at the height of COVID. They were just like saying, like, yeah, fuck it, yellow swag, just let the disease like run through all the people. If people die, man, fuck it, who gives a shit? Like Ben Shapiro, I remember specifically, had like a segment during COVID saying that, well, if you're old, you need to go out there and die and sacrifice yourself for the economy. And it's just like, wow, that's pretty fucking grim there, Ben. Why would you say that? That's like kind of psychotic and weird, and like one of the most like strange things I have ever heard someone say for some fucking reason. But for the Republican Party, I've said this before and I'll say it again, they have never cared about their broader constituents. They never will care about their broader constituency. It's always been about like adherence to some form of capital interests and power with them specifically. That's what they mostly care about.
Owners and capitalism, and so they made it into a culture war issue that a lot of more conspiratorial people have jumped onto, and it was fertile ground because our public health system is so poor that people only find a feeling of agency and control in their essentially individualized health choices.
Which is, by the way, I keep talking about just how important it is for the Democrats to just not run away from, like, just good, solid public policy. Because we're directly seeing a lot of the consequences of it right here, that now people are going to become, or rather people are becoming more and more vaccine skeptical. More and more people are becoming, like, just generally speaking, skeptical of just the idea of public health. And like I said before, public health, generally speaking, is built on the broader concept of trust. If you do not have trust with people when we are, taking care of, like, public health situations, then, like, there's going to be sort of problems in terms of being able to manage, say, the next big pandemic, or manage, say, like, the next sort of, I don't know, it doesn't even have to be anything, like, particularly crazy or complicated. It can be as, like, simple as just, like, the next reemergence of, like, an incredibly infectious disease. Like, climate change is also, like, a thing here in particular as well, where climate change potentially has the risk of uncovering a bunch of ancient diseases from hidden under the ice caps that humanity has never had to deal with before, but it was stuck in the ice caps, so, we didn't have to think about it in a previous sort of respect. This is, like, the sort of, like, problems here about having such little faith, shall we say, in terms of public health. It has a lot of adverse consequences,
which can range from not taking certain supplements, taking certain vitamins, looking things up on the internet to make your child or you healthier, which can lead you down rabbit holes. It can also lead you to being essentially an anti-vaxxer.
It turned what should have been a moment for Americans to collectively come together on this government's responsibility towards everyone's health, just publicly, and it turned it into one of distrust of government and conspiracizing.
Which they love. Hey,
absolutely. There's no demand for, like, Pfizer or any of these companies to make their these vaccines widely available, instead treat them like intellectual property.
Exactly. And
which is pretty much what exactly happened with all these, like, public-private partnerships between the government when they proposed Operation Warp Speed. The healthcare companies, like Pfizer, the drug companies and whatnot, they made a killing during the COVID era because they were able to get so much fucking money in terms of profit for the vaccines. Like, luckily, at the very least, it was not as, like, disastrous as it potentially could have been because of the fact that the vaccines were made free. COVID vaccines specifically were made free for everybody, which, again, if people would have to be forced to pay in order to get, like, COVID vaccinations, like, we can only just, I don't know, speculate as to just how much worse the whole situation with COVID could have just possibly have been.
And they would love the idea that any kind of understanding that our health is interconnected and that we should have a public healthcare system is dispersed and made less relevant by conspiracism, because then you can't have a mass mobilization for a movement like Medicare for All, for example, and that's what we need to be combating. From the start of this hearing, Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment. Here is him doing so. Senator Rand Paul heads the committee where he's testifying, the U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, because naturally this is all...
Rand Paul in particular just has, like, some weird, like, conniption with Anthony Fauci. Mostly, if I were to sort of guess, it's because of the vaccine mandates, right? And everyone talking about how it's like, oh, it's all about, like, government control and tracking all of your movements and all this, well, bullshit, basically. When in reality, all the vaccine mandates were just like, hey, can you just, like, take your fucking vaccination, which everyone is saying is, like, okay and safe, in order to not be able to give people the plague that they want to avoid. Because, okay, this is a sort of, like, broader concept that's very difficult for conservatives to sort of understand. You are free to not take a vaccine, sure, but I am also free to not get the fucking plague, right? And let's be honest here, a vast majority of people would prefer to have the freedom of not taking a plague, or not getting a fucking plague, in comparison of having to deal with all these, like, dumbass fucking conspiratorial freaks who want to express their freedom of not taking a vaccine to effectively combat said, plague that's currently, like, roaming around the United States or around the world at the current juncture. Like, that's like mostly the fucking biggest problem. If we want to make the whole quote unquote like freedom argument, which is what Rand Paul, if I were to assume, mostly made.
Based on their obsession with blaming China for the pandemic, as opposed to, say, like it being worsened in this country because the president of the United States said it may be a good idea to inject bleach into your body. But here is the beginning of these opening statements when Fauci pleads the fifth.
This video, I skipped the first minute of this, is him going through his...
Yeah, let's not even, like, talk at all about the sort of, like, weirdos around, like, Trump constantly talking about, like, hydroxychloroquine. I mean, even fucking Trump himself brought up fucking hydroxychloroquine, which only just further fueled the, like, nonsensical, like, vaccine skepticism nonsense that was going around. Maybe, like, Trump wanted to, like, prime a lot of these people in order to have, like, some extra constituency for him to appeal to for his presidential run. I mean, just, like, throw that out there. Now, am I saying that Donald Trump, like, absolutely planned that far ahead? Probably not. But, I mean, it's something that one can speculate on. Yeah, healthcare ultimately isn't individual. Our food, air, water are shared, and we gotta look out for each other. There's a reason you don't go into work with the flu. Yeah, exactly, Boy Meets Minnie. But, we're talking about the Republican Party here, of course. And if they can do anything possible in order to, I don't know, actively destroy the sort of reasoning for as to why humanity is as successful as it is, well, they'll do it.
His resume and his whole career, and it picks up to where he's now getting to Rand Paul.
However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing...
So yeah, this is all the stuff that I initially mentioned earlier. Yeah, like, Rand Paul just has it out for Anthony Fauci for, like, whatever reason. Probably not because of him being, like, a vaccine skeptic, but it was probably mostly in pertinence to the, like, vaccine mandates. And like I said before, you should get your fucking goddamn vaccines, especially for fucking COVID, because of the fact that it was highly contagious and not everyone can be vaccinated against it. There's very good reasons for as to why you should get your fucking COVID vaccines. It's, well, mostly for the fact that it's to ensure that immunocompromised people or people who can't get the vaccine are not going to get the disease and potentially die of the disease. And keep in mind, quick reminder, of course, you want to know who took the most fucking casualties and deaths from the COVID pandemic? It was because of it was the United States of America, because of a lot of this, like, vaccine skepticism nonsense. Having a debate on something which should obviously not be a debate. Yeah, Fauci couldn't do much of Trump's BS with the warp speed. Unfortunately, Trump knows how to frame someone as the fall guy. Did Trump really jingle a lot of keys about Anthony Fauci? I mean, he probably did, knowing Donald Trump, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, like, it's one of those things that's just, like, it's so silly and ridiculous, where it's the idea of going after Anthony Fauci, who's just, like, a public servant, is just, like, nonsensical to me.
And intimidating me, the only conclusion I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Now, if we're like in the mind of like this conspiratorial crank and like schizo weirdo, a lot of those people are going to see this as like an admission of guilt. Personally, I see this as, what else can the guy really do? Like, let's be honest here. Like, what can the guy really do? Anthony Fauci, at the very least, clearly cares about actually being like a public servant, serving the fucking public good and whatnot. I think we can certainly make that assertion. I don't think that's like ridiculous to say, to be honest. He at the very least has an interest in working within public health and ensuring the safety of the American people. I don't think that's like ridiculous to say. The sort of idea here that he would want to, like, I don't know, destroy the United States of America because of, I don't know, wanting to give an ouchie to a bunch of fucking people. It's just like nonsense to me. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of ways to like sort of like analyze this whole situation. Besides, I understand why Anthony Fauci would probably want to plead the fifth in this particular instance, because he recognizes that that the GOP are trying to set him up as a fucking fall guy, all because Donald Trump just doesn't want to sort of take any responsibility whatsoever for his terrible policies leading to the deaths of millions upon millions of Americans.
We are now.
Rand Paul then goes on to ask him a bunch of questions. Fauci saved probably thousands of lives, if not millions of lives. Of the people targeted in Trump 2.0 by this administration, he's one of the most sympathetic. Like, I'm not somebody that thinks James Comey is deserving of our our sympathy, but Fauci was a lifelong public.
That's the same thing I've also said myself as well. Like, I don't think James Comey with the 86-47 stuff is like, I don't think James Comey is good. No CIA director or FBI director or whatever is particularly good, but the idea that a guy should go to jail because of some fucking seashells that he arranged to say 86-47 is extremely fucking stupid. Like, it's just like, okay, man. Like, for all the like constant talk about how these how Republicans and conservatives are supposed to be like the biggest manly men on the planet, they very often have ways to just be like, I don't know, like some of the biggest fucking cowards on the planet.
Public servant. And, there at the beginning of the pandemic, there are things that you get wrong. Like, we didn't know initially how it was transmitted. Things like gloves were not necessary. And then we knew the true nature of the virus as it came to be. And so the guy.
Right. That's the thing that because I completely forgot about all this fucking bullshit. Yeah. Because COVID was like a new disease and whatnot, and we didn't know much about it. Anthony Fauci made a bunch of recommendations in hearings, talking about like, don't get like N95 masks or whatever, but mostly because he was like inconsistent in terms of like an N95 mask sort of position, because he was afraid of the fact that there may not be enough supplies of N95 masks for healthcare workers specifically, but the conservatives don't care about that, obviously. And he's had some like inconsistencies talking about in multiple hearings, of course, of during the COVID pandemic, where he was talking about here's like how we have like an understanding, broadly speaking, of how the disease works, yada yada yada, and it ended up not being actually accurate. And here's the thing with COVID, the way that it was constantly like mutating. There was a lot of changes. I mean, it's COVID, ironically, is also starting to mutate now as we speak. It's always changing, right? There's not ever going to be any perfect solution or whatever, given all the fucking conspiracism around all of this stuff. It makes it such that a lot of these, like, well, charlatans, these hacks, are more so because they're not interested in actually dealing with public health in any sort of like meaningful sense. It gives them a lot of like ammunition for them to just be complete like charlatans and like conspiratorial freaks. For part of it is like mostly garnering an audience, but most of it is just like basically virtue signal to like conspiratorial fucking nutcases.
Guidance wasn't on point when you look at it now years later, but what it evolved with the information that we received about COVID-19. And when you compare it to this, you remember Peter Navarro? This is the guy that started off as a trade advisor to Trump,
Oh boy,
and then he
Peter
suddenly took on this
Navarro.
huge role in COVID in early 2020. But this was the primary advocate for hydroxychloroquine in the administration, and he and Fauci were battling back and forth. When I say that Fauci
not
saved
surprised.
thousands, if not millions, of lives, I mean that Trump could have been listening to a guy like this, who still is quadrupling down on hydroxychloroquine in the year of our Lord 2026.
Why, man? Didn't Peter Navarro also go to jail for his, I don't know, like participation in January 6th or something? I'm trying to remember. It was either for something with Jan 6 or the Russiagate stuff Peter Navarro did. No, it was for Jan 6. And he ended up coming out of jail because of, I don't know, like his stint in jail basically was up, and he ended up I think getting back on as a trade advisor during the Trump 2.0 sort of session, I guess, for lack of a better term. And this fucking like psycho freak is still talking about hydroxychloroquine. Like, okay, bro, I don't know, man. Like, I bet this is the type of dude who would also like inject the horse dewormer into his veins like Trump did or something. Or was that that was the bleach point. Yeah, he said that specifically with bleach. Either way, it's fucking stupid.
This stuff with science, Yasmin, I want to emphasize, tells us now works. He was saying didn't work. I had 1 million doses of hydroxychloroquine in warehouses.
Sure you did.
Defense policy
I'm sure you
coordinator for the DPA that I was trying to distribute to hospitals, and he got the FDA to stop me from doing that. Thousands of people could be here in this country right now alive if
I'm sure, man. I don't even know, like, what the fuck is hydroxychloroquine again? I don't even remember. It's some dumb fuck chemical that's meant to like not be used to combat COVID. I know that for certain. Like, I don't know, man. I just find this to be like very silly and absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like, why the fuck are we doing this, dude? Like, dude, fucking hydroxychloroquine in the year of our Lord 2026, bro. It's fucking, I don't know. I don't really know what to say, man. It's just silly.
I had been able to distribute that, take that to the bank. That's what the science says.
Okay, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about that.
Okay, saying that on C-SPAN, what do you mean moving on from that? Hydroxychloroquine, there have been large-scale, randomized studies that looked into this very thing.
Yeah,
Do you think
it
that
didn't
the big pharma that they rail against that also produces hydroxychloroquine wouldn't have been really excited to sell this product, that they didn't even need to spend all of this money on research and development for an mRNA vaccine, that they could have just handed out hydroxychloroquine and people could have taken it prophylactically, and they could have made...
Yeah, that's a great point there, Emma, of course. Like, for all the talk that these motherfuckers have against, like, certain corporate interests, like Big Pharma and whatnot, like, do you really think that Big Pharma would not have just absolutely loved to have been selling hydroxychloroquine, like, hand over fist in order to make a bunch of money during this pandemic? Like, I don't know. Like, this is the fucking problem with like a lot of the conspiracism with the right wing. You just ask like one simple question and it just instantaneously falls apart.
Made hand over fist without
And
that
they
other
could've got people
investment.
back to work, which is the real
Exactly.
imperative.
That's why they were pushing hydroxychloroquine at the time, saying you can take this as a preventative measure. And then they did these large-scale trials and found that it did not have any efficacy. And the FDA had to backtrack on that at this point.
Yeah, and all the anti-vaxxers moved on to ivermectin. We're even talking about hydroxychloroquine anymore. That's the old version.
Well, I mean, Navarro feels wronged, feels like he could have been the savior. And isn't that what's important here, Matt?
Bro wants to, I don't know, like, I still don't know what hydroxychloroquine does in particular. I don't think it really matters, to be honest, to sort of like go into what it does. I don't think it matters. Maybe Peter Navarro was just like a horse dewormer denier. You know, he just didn't like horse dewormers, and he wanted to have his schizo conspiracy theory to be the one that mainly won out in comparison, which I guess didn't really end up working out all that well for this, I don't know, fucking weirdo.
And again, that's the framing, right? It's a government bureaucrat that got in the way of the life-saving pharmaceutical product that could have saved you if the bureaucrat just allowed it. But really, this was about getting people back to work as fast as possible. And these sorts of fake ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine weren't actually suitable to that purpose.
And we should put this all in the context that these folks are back in power, they feel emboldened, and we're feeling the ramifications of the Trump administration's approach to public health and disease.
True.
Currently, we are in the midst of two major outbreaks in the United States. This is the Cyclospora outbreak that you're hearing about on the news.
Yo, the Trump poop shit virus. Let's go. Trump poop shit. Let's go. We love the Trump poop shit virus. Not to mention also, I believe Emma's probably going to mention it, but it's also, there's a measles outbreak as well in the United States of America, and it's so bad that now the United States has lost its measles eradication sort of status.
A lot. The diarrhea parasite, essentially. It's been linked to iceberg lettuce, and there have been now at least 11,000 confirmed or suspected cases in the country. 40 states are reporting it, so an overwhelming majority.
That's
and it can result in hospitalization for that kind of diarrhea. It's a really serious issue. And there's this program within the CDC called FoodNet. When Trump came in with Doge and all of that, and this new administration, FoodNet, which was a program under the CDC that partnered with state health departments to track some of this stuff, scaled back its mandate essentially to look at pathogens. There were 8 pathogens that FoodNet was.
Yes, and I was literally, I think, about to say this. Yeah, a lot of the pathogen tracking that the Trump administration through Doge has been basically cutting, a lot of the necessary sort of tracking of the potential, like, various parasites and diseases coming up through various locations have been significantly cut back because, Elon Musk's like a stupid moron who thought he could save like $2 trillion within the United States of America, and when he obviously failed miserably, he just decided to go through with his like collection of neo-Nazi like Groyper kittens to just like cut a bunch of random bullshit to make it seem like he's doing something.
Was tracking with these state health departments, and they reduced that to just 2. So it's only E. coli and Salmonella, meaning Cyclospora should have been and would have been, if Trump just kept this in place, being monitored by FoodNet. They made it voluntary. And then you have this. This is a reporting from Wired about the Cyclospora lab. We could put this up here. As cases of the diarrhea-causing parasite Cyclospora rise across the U.S., former employees of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say the country's response is being severely hampered by personnel cuts at the agency amid mass government layoffs last year implemented by President Donald Trump.
Dude, I don't know. I guess the funny Doge wanted everyone to have the Nergalite poop shit virus or something, dude. Like, honestly, like, you just have to look at this entire administration and just be like, yep, they're all patrons to the plague god. They're all patrons to the Father. They're all patrons to the god of disease, death, and plague. Very, very cool. Everybody, big fan of Nurgle within the Trump administration.
His so-called Department of Government Efficiency, the CDC lab that responds to outbreaks of the parasite Cyclospora was downsized from 11 people to just 3, according to Joel Barrett, a molecular parasitologist and associate professor at Emory University School of Medicine who previously led the team. So you see those are 2 reductions.
Yeah, it's like a cut of about like a factor of 4 almost. Like, Jesus Christ. I don't even know, like, I'm just like curious, what exactly was the justification for cutting those people in particular? Because most of the justifications for a lot of the cuts done by the Trump administration, they justified a lot of it saying that, oh, it's a lot of people that have been on like extended leaves and have been furloughed for the moment, while mostly getting hired by the government, and we're about to be like transferred over to a lot of their sort of projects and tasks. They decided to just randomly fire them specifically because they were just like, well, you're not working, so therefore why should we keep you around? It's like, well, that's not exactly how that works. They've been basically told that they've been furloughed at the moment, or like they're in between contracts, so like they're waiting for their next assignment. Like, this is how this works. But this is the problem with people like Elon Musk within Doge and, well, Donald Trump specifically, is that all these people do not understand how the government works.
That I just mentioned. They reduced the guidance in terms of pathogens that were monitored in conjunction with state health departments, and then they also just drastically reduced the workforce that was responsible for these kinds of outbreaks, and specifically for Cyclospora. It was downsized from 11 people to just 3. Based on simple math, these outbreak responses, which required rapid, timely responses, are going to be greatly diminished. If we could just put this back up on the screen here. He tells Wired, Cyclospora is just one piece. It's making the news right now, but there are other more dangerous pathogens than Cyclospora. He mentions about how he left the CDC voluntarily because of the purges and,
Isn't there like a big Ebola outbreak currently happening within, is it the Congo, I believe? Or Uganda. I think it's either Congo or Uganda. There's currently a big Ebola outbreak at the moment where a bunch of people have died because a lot of the cuts by Doge to USAID have made it such that a lot of these third world countries are not able to, have not been able to sort of more effectively combat a lot of these like diseases because they were reliant on a lot of that fucking money. Again, for like all the dumb fucking conservatives who like to constantly complain, moan, bitch about all of the reasonings and just like saying like stuff like, oh, why on earth are we spending our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars on I don't know, like these third world shitholes to, I don't know, help them combat infectious diseases. It's so it doesn't come back home to you in order to bite all of you in the ass. That's kind of how it's supposed to work. Yeah, it's kind of how it's supposed to work.
Maintaining your benefits. Wired reported in October that the CDC reduced its total workforce by about 3,000 employees, roughly a quarter of the agency since January 2025. That number includes layoffs as well as those who accepted the Trump administration's buyout program. The estimate was compiled by the American Federation of Government Employees Local 2883, which represents CDC workers. And there's also, there's also this Ebola outbreak, right? Like Sam has been debated Julian Michaels on the cuts of USAID and those impacts. But like in the DRC right now, there's an outbreak there of Ebola that we have to monitor. And then we turn to measles because the U.S. has already lapped.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier already about the measles outbreak, mostly because, again, quick reminder, RFK Jr. with his like conspiratorial sort of like crank nonsense about measles specifically have already led to the deaths of several children within the United States of America, simply just due to the fact that he just said like, well, if you take vitamin A in order to combat measles, that's the most effective method in order to combat them or combat that disease, which, as I've said before, has led to the death of multiple children from vitamin A poisoning because of a lot of these like panicked parents who are trying to deal with measles instead of, getting the kid a fucking vaccine. They're just like, oh, well, RFK Jr., the, I don't know, head of HHS and, I don't know, one of my like best friends, because I heard him in a podcast once, in terms of like his weird conspiratorial like health guru shit, told me that in order to combat stuff like measles, I just take a bunch of I just give my kid a bunch of vitamin A and he'll be fine. He'll be like totally okay. When that's not the case, and a lot of these people tend to panic. They tend to give like way more like vitamin A than was necessary for the kid's body to handle, and then they end up fucking dying from taking too much fucking vitamin A. It's pretty fucking bad.
The previous record since 2000, or since it was essentially measles was declared eliminated from the United States, 2025 was a record for measles cases, and right now we're already beating that record in the year 2026. Here's Dr. Peter Hotez speaking to CNN about what the status of measles cases are in the United States and how the U.S. has lost its elimination status, which it declared in 2000, essentially saying that measles has been eliminated from the United States. And so like international public health groups have to downgrade the United States because of how many measles cases there are.
We're winning,
basically,
folks.
measles is back. We've lost our elimination status, and that is.
Oh, and by the way, like I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is why I don't think anti-vaxxers should be able to vote. I don't think that anti-vaxxers should be able to have many rights whatsoever. Because, I mean, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. These people do not care about the broader sort of general public good or safety of really much of anyone, to be honest. Except their own, like, sort of, like, entitled sort of beliefs and thinking that they are doing right by their families and their children by saying, oh, well, you know what? in order to be like special little snowflakes on our dumb fucking podcasts and whatnot, we're just going to be like edgy boys and start talking about how vaccines are bad or something. It's just like, you are aware you people are not really helping in any way, shape, or form. Like, people are just going to look at you and say, wow, you guys are fucking like stupid assholes that are making everything worse for that's making everything worse for everyone. For like what reason exactly? Because you're like a bunch of self-entitled fucking pricks. Like, thank you, anti-vaxxers, you like fucking goddamn freaks.
Is the first domino to fall, because pertussis, whooping cough, is falling right behind. Those numbers are also huge in terms of coming back. And of course, the worry is that polio could return. Generally, you know, it's maybe 100
polio,
cases or so a year. Then last year, we hit over 2,000 for the first time in decades. And now we're already at that just halfway through the year. It's happening for the simple reason that not enough parents are vaccinating their kids. They're getting the wrong message that measles is not a bad illness. They forget how that 10-20% of kids require hospitalization. With measles, we've had...
Just that sort of like point alone, that quote unquote people forget about how bad measles is. Like, motherfucker, you have a phone. You can Google this stuff. Like, why are you listening to the sort of whims of a dumb fuck podcaster telling you that, oh, actually measles is not that bad? Because that's what RFK Jr. was, and still effectively is a dumb fucking podcaster. Like, why are we listening to his whims and nonsense when he's not a fucking expert in any of this stuff whatsoever? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where I just look at it and I just like kind of like shake my head in disappointment, saying like, oh, God, America, why are you like this sometimes, bro? And I've said this before. It's kind of the problem with having way too much laissez-faire free speech sort of laws within the United States, because now vaccines are a debate, just like climate change is a debate within the United States of America. Very, very cool.
Had 2 measles deaths last year among perfectly well kids who, unfortunately, the parents made the decision not to vaccinate them.
So measles at risk of losing its elimination status here in the United States. What's the significance of that?
It means that hospitalizations are going to be a new normal for measles, and it's going to mean that parents, you know, who are responsible are going to have to rethink the safety of their kids in schools. And I'm also worried about parents, especially new parents.
Okay, just to say this real quick, that point by Peter Hotez right there, I think that's the act. Okay, call me conspiratorial or whatever. I think that's actually the probable goal of the Republican Party with all this, like, health nut bullshit, especially with Maha. Right? We know with, like, Linda McMahon and all the, like, associated weirdos who are trying to destroy the Department of Education, that the Republican Party will basically do anything to make it such that people are not getting educated within the United States of America. Because the Republican Party has an understanding, of course, that if people are able to get educated, you know, and are able to sort of freely think for themselves, they are less likely to be Republican voters.
With kids, with infants not yet old enough to be vaccinated. You know, what do you do with a 5-month-old, a 6-month-old who's still 6 months away from getting a measles for their first dose of MMR vaccine?
Sure.
It's horrifying. So, and this is kind of promulgating in communities where there are low vaccination rates, perhaps some vaccine skepticism, scientific skepticism, and measles is deadly. Like,
when he says they're getting the wrong message about measles, RFK Jr. famously said that when he had measles, it was a great weekend of watching TV, and all you need is chicken soup and vitamin A.
Jeez. I didn't even know that.
Christ, man.
It kills children. Children are dying, and even if they don't die from it, it impacts.
Like literally 2 kids have died in 2025 alone because of this, like, this conspiratorial sort of nonsense.
Children's immune system for the rest of their lives. Measles. It's incredibly contagious and dangerous. But we want to play around with this now.
3 kids died last year.
Yo, epic.
It's
so cool.
This war on public health here needs to be met with a response that transforms our public health care system so that these kinds of charlatans are not able to make a buck out of this. I mean, there's a whole industry right now that's getting very rich that RFK and his acolytes are connected to, of alternative medicine, with that is exploiting people who desperately want.
Dude, like, literally, that's the same shit that fucking Alex Jones is pushing with his, like, dumbass fucking supplement companies and whatnot. Oh, that's right. I'm pushing a bunch of supplements for the boys. I love pushing supplements. Let's go. Yeah, man. Like, totally. Oh, man, we do heckin' love our heckin' alternative medicine, don't we, people?
And some sort of control over their healthcare. Like, the anxiety that moms feel about what's going into their kids' bodies is something that the Democrats should not ignore. It's a very real thing. But it's not because, you know, you're not just taking the right vitamins or whatever, or prophylactic hydroxychloroquine. It's because nobody can afford to go see a doctor, and so they have to fill the gaps with what they're looking up on Google or hearing from RFK Jr. And this impacts the rest of us.
I have a shitload of
it turns out that having a very robust public system and civic nationalism, which, by the way, is something that liberals should be agreeing with. So, you know, another instance, another notch in the sort of belief that the Democratic Party is generally a liberal fucking party, that they don't actually believe in the tenets of liberalism because they're not willing to do anything possible in order to make the institutions as robust as possible to be able to have a effective, safe, and functioning fucking state. I fucking heckin' love my quote-unquote liberal party that totally heckin' believes in the broader sort of principles of liberalism.
Anxieties about medicines, but what appeases it is more regulation,
right?
Not less.
And what also probably appeases it or makes it easier for you is the fact that you have healthcare through the VA, right? Like, yes. And so it takes that anxiety away about emergencies that can result in, you know, poor decision making without the proper information that's available to people. It's not just an information issue. You know, I really do wish that the Democrats nationally would remove, like, would make it less about how people need to be educated on this issue. This is systemic. The education isn't going to take, the adhesive isn't going to take if people aren't primed for it.
Well, I mean, especially because people are just not, broadly speaking, interested at all in trying to be fucking educated. We live in a very, like, uneducated sort of moment within time. People don't give a fuck about being, broadly speaking, curious or wanting to be educated whatsoever. Like, it's just very, very silly. But yeah, like, I mean, what else is there to really say? It's fairly obvious and extremely clear that the point of all these, like, hearings with Anthony Fauci and, broadly speaking, with all the purposes of all this, it's being done for one reason and one reason only. It's supposed to show an even further distrust of federal institutions and public health now as a concept, for the express purpose of what exactly? To have a bunch of, like, conspiratorial fucking losers and cranks be able to make their buck and basically just put out a bunch of, like, grifting nonsense for the express purpose of causing, well, not only more suffering, but for them to make a bunch of money for the fact that they are selling a bunch of quote-unquote alternative fucking medicines that help people feel better and whatnot. It's an incredibly, like, insidious and I would say very, very evil industry that's being, like, broadly speaking described, that's the term I'm looking for here, being headed up by, to be honest, for lack of a better term, some of the most annoying, idiotic, conspiratorial cranks on the fucking planet. And it's just making the lives of people worse for what reason exactly? Meh, because RFK wants to make a buck for all the alternative, like, health guru bullshit that he likes to consistently fucking push. It's genuinely fucking disgusting behavior. Oh, and also, like, for, like, freaks like Rand Paul who do not believe in the sort of, like, guiding principles of the institution and federal sort of policy, and, like, other, like, weirdo conspiratorial grifters and hacks who just want to make a quick buck from, like, vaccine fucking skepticism. You should have, like, unironically, like, absolutely no respect for any of these people. Don't think there's really much else to say besides that. Okay, I think I am done with the roads to the Spire Coast. Hooray. I've made a nice, lovely, long road that we can branch off for future purposes if need be. Hooray. So that'll go down to grab all of the petroleum-based products. And we've made all these T-junctions here. And the reason why we've made all these T-junctions here is because I'm going to use this area for mass water extraction. Because for all the like little lakes and whatnot that are available in our starting area, starting to run out of some fucking water. Or rather plots in order to be able to get more water. So we need more. So look at this, massive amount of water. Speaking of the death of education, what's this? I am Gen Z. I stand with both. You paid all our... What the fuck is this? I support the students. I respect my PM. The fuck does that even mean, man? Okay. You know, in the most... Yeah, in the most, like, you know, the biggest instance of Modi's government being, like, incredibly fucking incompetent... There, too, can also be enlightened fucking centrists. To say, personally, I don't want to take any particular stake or claim in this argument whatsoever. And it's just like, okay, man. You're a fucking idiot, little bro. You know, this is like something that's like so astronomically fucking stupid. The media docks a high school student because from the protest because she called Modi a bad word. She's in jail. Bro, what? Okay. Yo, that's fucking epic, dude. That's so fucking based. Fascists made deep fakes of her. I can only assume, you know, 15-year-old is a girl. I can only assume what those deep fakes may have potentially. Just potentially. We're just guys, we're doing a little bit of Pepe posting here, okay? Everyone get your fucking Pepes out. Pepe. I can only assume what those guys were putting within those quote-unquote deep fakes. One can only assume what the fascist was trying to put within those deep fakes. I'm certain that it was very hecking wholesome Reno content to Reno, and nothing suspicious or wrong is going on whatsoever. Nothing. I am missing iron rods again. God damn it. Whatever. The road's all done to the Spire Coast. Let me just occupado the nodes with oil extractors so then there are no more spawns. Man, the cable requirement for these things is very, very high. 60 cables. It's a lot. Oh. Not that it's actually expensive, but like... Whatever. What are you doing here? I missed. This is a protests going on in Kashmir's part of Pakistan. Dude, there is just too much shit that's going on. Can we just, like, relax? Can there be less stuff going on? I'm just one guy. Yeah, I just want to go back to brunch. You know, I just want to be an anarcho-brunchist. I just want to brunch max. That's what I want. I want a brunch max, to be honest. Yeah, no more anarcho. The anarcho-Bidenism is fucking dead, dude. It's over. It was the liberals who killed it. Brunch is dead. It is time for war. That's what Corn would want. For brunch to die and for there to be war instead. $240 per second, which can eventually be doubled to $480 per second. Lovely. Once we get our machine upgrades, of course. But now those things are occupado. Time for me to grab some water, stretch my legs, and whatnot, and then continue to talk about the rest of the stuff that's in the title. Very cool, very good. It's lighter than I thought. Alright. Gamers, I will be right back. sneeze, man. All right. We're back. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. I didn't turn off the fucking lights in my bathroom. Thank you for the blessings. I've been blessed. Anywho, let's get started with this. Well, this is quite the interesting development that I was not expecting whatsoever, but Hank Green, a massive YouTuber, like a liberal, like I don't really have many qualms with Hank Green in particular, but liberal VTuber, YouTuber, who has multiple channels, writes a bunch of video essays, has a team around him, more than likely, admits that he has been relying too heavily on AI. I need to come to terms with the fact the level of dopamine I've been getting from interacting with LLMs is not healthy for me or good for the world. I've talked about this broader sort of concept before, but the evil, insidious things about these like generative AI, like LLM models and whatnot, a lot of them are also going after people's ability to be able to socially interact with one another. Because like I've said before, and I've argued in the past, the next sort of frontier of what people essentially want, or capitalists, broadly speaking, want to do in terms of their monetization is they want to essentially monetize the ability for people to have social interactions with one another. And I've said that this is a particularly like very, very evil anti-human thing to do, because we are meant to socially interact with one another as a species. It is what humans are basically created to do, to be able to interact with one another and our sort of broader environment around us, given the fact that we are highly complex beings capable of like consciousness and complex thought. The fact that like a lot of these like AI companies are essentially subverting that very primal human sort of instinct, I find to be like particularly fucking terrible. And yeah, and apparently it was like impertinence to his viewers suspecting AI use from one of his videos recently, which this intrepid individual here has been certainly doing the deep dives into this in particular. Apparently, like, Hank is not having a conversation with anyone. He's speaking to the viewer alone. There's no guests in this segment. I haven't seen anyone post the actual clip, so I watched the entire hour-long video. And we'll get to, like, the specifics here by what Dexterdo, in terms of the article, is saying. It's coming from this video in here particularly. And that's the main sort of, like, thing that people are citing. Like, Hank, why are you, like, running, like, using AI in order to do, like, a bunch of your videos? It's a little weird here. But why don't we take a look at some of these clips, see like maybe what some of the evidence that Hank Green sort of viewers have compiled. I'm just a little curious.
They matter. There's a thing in there that matters, and that's very cool. A better way to say it, and I appreciate the pushback, is a word is a human invention, and human inventions are made by bodies and brains working together with the systems that they have, including the sounds that they make and how that feels inside of the brain.
Wait, what is he? Okay, I don't know what exactly he's talking about here. Is he talking about the controversy? Did he make a video about this? He made some fucking posts about it. I'm a little confused. Yeah, I'm a little confused here. I don't know. Like, here's another clip directly from the video itself. Maybe this is like some separate clip or something. I'm not very certain.
Pancreas? That's fake.
That's a made-up word. That's not real.
They're all made-up words, Georgie.
What about, like, the... Okay, never mind.
Well, hit me. Do you think that there's some that aren't made up?
Yes.
Okay.
But...
I have some thoughts, actually.
There's, like, Booba and Kiki.
Okay, great. Now we're talking about Booba and Kiki?
Like, isn't that a word through...
Future...
So is the conversation here talking about the sort of, like, I don't know, like, foundational sort of founding of language or something, the foundational basis of language or something? I remember Tom Scott's video about this, the idea that all language is essentially like made up. We just made up all these words and we ascribe meaning to these words. I mean, that's true. I mean, yeah. Language is a construct that we have created in order to be able to communicate with one another, right? There's a reason why there are languages for like all around the world, right? That talk about certain, or not talk about certain things, but are constructed in particular ways, and are systems that have been created throughout the development of like thousands upon thousands of years of a spoken word between humanity, of course, and has essentially transformed into languages. I mean, like, yeah, every single word is made up to a certain extent. Like, if you want to do like the infinite regress of talking about like, oh yeah, like the history of language, like, yeah, sure.
Exist through any language that people can determine what it means?
Future Hank. Current Hank is not well-versed enough on Booba and Kiki, though he knows what they are. But future Hank is going to tell you about Booba and Kiki.
The fuck is Booba and Kiki?
Hello. First, I must explain Booba and Kiki to people if you are not aware. There are these two shapes. Look at them. And then now we ask which one is Booba and which one is Kiki, and most people, a very large...
I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking of something completely different when he was saying Booba. I'm not gonna lie.
Percentage see that the blobby one is Booba and the spiky one is Kiki. This might just seem like obvious and boring, but it's actually pretty weird. So the question then becomes like, are words for things just entirely invented, or is there some amount of constraint? And it would appear that with Booba and Kiki, maybe there is some constraint. And we're gonna get into it. But first, I want to talk about whether or not this is something that's specific to our language or our writing system. And it does seem like Booba and Kiki are pretty cross-cultural. Like, you might just say like the K is a spiky shape and the B is a round shape, and so that's what it's about the writing system. But no, this goes across different writing systems. There was a study where researchers tested people across 25 languages, 9 language families, and 10 writing systems. Overall, people really did tend to match Booba with a round shape and Kiki with a spiky shape, though this was not perfect. The effect showed up cleanly in 17 of 25 languages. But that's real enough that if you like take away the Roman alphabet, it's still there. It's shown up in people who do not use a written language. So the K and Kiki looking angular is probably not the explanation. It seems to be based in the sounds themselves. Booba is all soft and voiced and round, and Kiki is sharper and it's got those stops. So, does this mean that words aren't made up? No, words are definitely made up. But it does mean that there are things that matter to a community of brains creating language together. That does not mean that Booba naturally means round in the secret language of the universe. It means that when humans are asked to attach sounds to things, the sounds are not blank. They matter. There's a thing in there that matters, and that's very cool. A better...
I'm really just... I don't know, man. I really don't see what like the point of what Hank is essentially saying here. What, on a fifth rewatch of this, it is actually a little confusing. He might be referring to the guest's pushback about words being made up. Hank explains for 2 minutes in an aside and says the guest is kind of right that Booba and Kiki complicate the issue, but ultimately they are still made up. Correcting his earlier confidence in the assertion that all words are made up. So her pushback illuminates some aspect of the argument and they learn something from it. Now, I would say it is strange to frame this as I appreciate the pushback. If I were writing the script, I would say I appreciate her pushback. I appreciate the pushback. I appreciate her pushback. Okay. I appreciate Soupy Times the guest's pushback. He's not talking to her in any more, and the context is 2 minutes old. The writing of me smells of AI. I appreciate the pushback. I appreciate her pushback. I didn't finish listening to this whole bit here. Let me listen to this.
Matter. There's a thing in there that matters, and that's very cool. A better way to say it, and I appreciate the pushback, is a word is a human invention.
Wait. And I appreciate the... Let me listen to that again.
There's a thing in there that matters, and that's very cool. A better way to say it, and I appreciate the pushback, is a word is a human invention.
That... Okay. Okay, I see what's being said here. Yeah, that flows very weirdly. That's like a very, very strange flow. I'm listening to it again.
A better way to say it, and I appreciate the pushback, is a word is a human invention.
Yeah, that's and I appreciate the pushback there. It's definitely a little weird there, because when generative AI creates a lot of scripts, to be honest, it doesn't really understand the flow of language, because it doesn't have a context for a conversation, how a conversation is supposed to flow. Like, it's like talking about rap, for example, right? Like, sounds ridiculous to say, but stick with me for a second. A lot of aspects of rap are not only about the beat, the lyrics, the sort of like literary devices required for the lyricism, but it's also about how it all flows. That's where you get a lot of instances of rappers being able to rhyme things that are not necessarily supposed to actually be able to rhyme, right? But with the whole flow of the music and the lyricism and everything, you can make it seem like these two particular words that should not, in terms of the rules of being able to rhyme with one another, can actually rhyme in a particular sense or way. Not a sense, but like in a not like a particular sense, because the flow of the lyrics, the music, all comes together to make it sound in a particularly good way. Does it kind of make sense what I'm like saying here? What I'm basically saying is it could be entirely possible that bit was written there by AI, because AI does not have that context needed in order to be able to establish the flow of a conversation. Also, notable context is that within this episode, there are multiple instances of Hank's own fact-checker employee / team being like, "We couldn't find a source for what Hank just said." Jesus, I don't know why that was so difficult for me for a second. We buy the logic here, but can't confirm the science. Keep in mind, Hank Green is a science communicator, of course, as well. Should go without saying. Binding those artificial sweeteners to the receptors is distinct, but we cannot confirm if it's necessarily 200 times stronger and driving more brain signals. Okay, sure. Couldn't find a source that says cats groom themselves as a way to make themselves less smelly, so they can hunt better. Okay. Whatever. Those are like random out of context clips from the conversation. I don't think it's like particularly important. Sure, whatever. But Hank did have a big response to all of this on Reddit, talking about the whole fiasco, for lack of a better term, where he's talking about, quote unquote, being too reliant on AI. What do we have here? 3 things to start. I'm mortified that I have let so many people down, and I think I understand how that happened. 2, I'm going to change things about how I make stuff, and then Complexly's, that's one of his companies that he runs, I suppose, or businesses, YouTube shows, whatever, is AI policies public and well considered and adhered to by the whole team. And I think it's worth reading. Complexly is the nonprofit that makes Crash Course and SciShow and a bunch of other shows that I do not write for. The thing that everything we do is based on is that what we do is based on is that that what I'm saying are my thoughts coming from my brain and the way I decide. Okay? I have made that harder, and I'm sorry. Because he was using a lot of AI in order to be able to write a bunch of his scripts, which isn't necessarily coming from his brain. It's coming from the amalgamated data that the AI has basically, concocted. Okay, sure. I have been relying too heavily on AI as a research aid. It can be very useful for this task. Can be, yes, but it's not something that you should rely on. Again, the best way, because the thing with AI is that it can be useful as like a surface level thing to get like a particular point across, but the best way to sort of use AI is by checking the own sources that the AI lists within the summary that it has when you give it a particular question, and do further reading of the source material. That's generally speaking the best way to do it. I'm only assuming that he's probably using AI more and more. I mean, he runs like multiple channels, of course, right? And as a byproduct of that, he has been relying more and more on AI to help with the scripts and whatnot, because it's a time saver, which is kind of the problem with this stuff. I mean, you could just like, I don't know, tone back maybe a little bit. I think that's totally fair. I think that's fair. Giving me access to a lot of papers I didn't know existed really fast. But I think that has been to the detriment of my work, because it has not given me the freedom to find all of my own ways into and around the topic. Yeah, it's kind of he's mostly commenting there. I think the sort of consequences of the ease of access and convenience, right? Like, yeah, sure, you get access to a bunch of interesting sort of like tidbits from papers and whatnot, but using AI in order to be able to do that in terms of its like terrible summaries of those papers doesn't really help in particular as well. But for clarity, the origin of my claims in my videos are not ChatGPT said this. I have been using AI to locate papers and other resources for learning about topics. You are still getting my takes based on what I read, know, and learn. Okay, so he uses the AI to get the articles in order to be able to, or like papers or whatever, in order to be able to have his sort of takes and be able to impart information on those positions. Okay, I just thought of something. I think I understand why Hank may be doing this. And I think it might be because of the fact that Google as a search tool, as a search engine, is just complete fucking dog shit. Like, the search engine optimization is terrible for Google. It's been known that it's really, really bad for quite a while now. But since there's no other option, like, they're not going to do anything about it to fix it. And it's making it such that the quality of what people are trying to search on that fucking platform is just getting worse and worse and worse. I think I get where he's coming from with this, but that doesn't mean I really agree with it. Like, I guess you're just gonna have to put in more effort into research to find the papers and whatnot, and do a lot of reading, and like scale back maybe the amount of content that needs to be created. But then again, the problem with that is that the algorithm moves so ridiculously fast and recklessly, for lack of a better term, that it may have some potential adverse consequences on the channel itself. I think what people have said in this thread about me deluding myself is spot on. Ultimately, what I am most scared of is ruining myself for people. But I have not been managing my impulses well. Many such cases. You need to know that my words are mine. I don't think that this hasn't been true, but I've been moving so fast that my own process isn't actually clear to me, and I want to be able to. I want to have it to be a guarantee moving forward. Okay. So I suppose this is mostly like commentary about how, yes, I think this is mostly a byproduct of the social media environment that we find ourselves under. Everything moves so ridiculously fast. You need to be able to put out stuff, out there as quickly as possible. And as a result, using AI as a fill into that gap is a tool that can fill it in, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing that it's being used to fill in that gap. Let's see. What I can't guarantee, though, is that we will agree about this technology or what to do with it. I think that's good. We need a lot of kinds of folks critiquing this technology. I'm not a pure AI hater, which people in the AI industry know. So when I say that the way these models were trained deeply disturbs me, that lands differently. Well, I mean, it is just like stealing a bunch of like, I mean, you can make the argument like copyrighted content in order to be able to sort of morph it into its own sort of thing, but it's still stealing a bunch of copyrighted content, which is the problem with generative AI. Like I've said this before, I'm not like a pure AI hater myself. There's uses for AI, like for medical sort of like predictive models, and I think also for language translation as well. For like universal translation, AI is quite effective at that. The problem with it is the fact that it's being used as a way to essentially replace employees, replace workers, so then corporations can save a bunch of money, and it's trying to destroy, well, artistry as a broader sort of concept, like people's ability to be able to create content that's meant to have like cultural sort of impact and relevance, which is not a good thing. It just makes everyone more lazy for no reason and not really able to engage their sort of critical faculties, which I have a massive fucking problem with. When I say I worry about the climate impacts of this world app, that is not me saying I don't think this tech should ever exist. It's me saying, for God's sake, please don't make our biggest problem worse. Sure, I don't disagree with that. When I say that, I skipped one of the lines. When I say that I think the speed at which these companies are trying to consolidate economic power should freak out everyone in the world, that's coming from someone who has nuanced takes. I don't disagree with that. It is very likely that you, the reader, and I disagree on how or even whether AI should be used. I think it makes sense for that disagreement to exist, but I have also always believed that my audience is more likely to be right than I am. Maybe, like, I guess what he means is like a sort of collective. I mean, Hank Green has a massive fucking audience, so you can operate under the assumption that someone within that audience is going to be able to have, because he's a science communicator, he talks about a wide range of broader fucking topics and whatnot. He talks about a whole bunch of different stuff. So I get where he's coming from when he's saying that. The issue is that it sort of like relying on the audience is not necessarily like completely fucking perfect, because if you're talking about a particular topic, like the audience themselves are generally speaking not really going to know about that sort of subject or whatever. And I mean, there could be like some subject matter experts that come into the comments and just start like talking about it, but it's not really reliable per se. And that's like one of the biggest problems of saying that your audience is more likely to be right than you are. Like, I mean, it's up to you to a certain extent to make sure you do the proper research and readings into a particular topic before you fucking talk about it, right? Especially as a science communicator, right? I think that's like fair. I don't know why he's having this like sort of take there about the audience being more likely to be right. I mean, listen, I've seen YouTube commenters and a lot of them are fucking idiots, man. Even experts can speak out of turn on topics they haven't deeply studied. Gotta stick to your lane. Yeah, exactly there, Boy Meets Mini. But it's kind of difficult for someone like Hank Green, who's a science communicator who talks about a ton of general scientific topics. And, you know, like, and this goes the same for, like, say, Kyle Hill as well, right? It's difficult for them to quote-unquote stick in their lane when their lane is to talk about broader sort of, like, scientific topics, right? A lot of them are going to be able are kind of having to speak out of turn on topics that they haven't. It kind of basically comes with the territory. Not everything they say is going to be exactly accurate, right? As for the why don't you just make less, no one is making you do this, I'm not sure that's how I work. That's what I've been also saying as well. I've been feeling the pressure of, I have this little video idea. I need to get it out real fast so then I can get to more important stuff. And I create when I feel that pressure. Okay, I get what he's saying here, but it's what he's broadly talking about here. This is the broader consequences of the commodified media environment that we have under. Because, okay, let me double check. How often does Hank Green put out content? I'm a little curious here. Let me check. Hank Green. Let's take a look. Hank's channel. He put out something 4 days ago. Okay. Does he put out something like weekly? Yeah, it looks like his schedule is he puts out a thing every fucking week. And being able to have like a decent understanding of a topic in about a week is, I mean, that's tough. It's not easy, especially like given what topics may be sort of talked about. Again, Hank Green talks about tons of various different topics. I mean, what the fuck is Smush? Okay, some game called Smush, something about stars, talking about the planet. There's a border closing over our heads. It's about SpaceX, saltwater fish. He just talks about random fucking bullshit, right? Just like nonsense, right? Oh, he has something about Zara Mamdani as well. Whatever. He talks about a bunch of different shit. Very, very cool. Fantastic. The thing is if you're putting out topics like every fucking week, a lot of stuff will just get like kind of lost in the fucking sauce, I guess, for lack of a better term, in terms of the current social media environment, right? And given the fact that you mostly have to like talk about what's like popular or whatever, in the sort of like there and now before it sort of like loses its prominence, because of these platforms being broadly speaking commodified and whatnot, and sort of the key jingling nature and all of it, it makes it such that a lot of sort of these videos are really what Hank has to do to rely on like ChatGPT in order to fill in the gaps becomes like more and more of a necessity. Does it kind of make sense what I'm saying here? I guess. I find science communication is better when it's structured and not stream of consciousness. Hard to get clicks though. That's specifically the fucking issue with all of this, right? I mean, what Hank is essentially grappling here is both the content creation sort of sphere and also the environment that we currently find ourselves under, where the thing that mostly gets the most like algorithmic benefit is like short form content, which Hank himself doesn't necessarily produce himself. It's like a grappling with like a very, very like root base existential sort of problem with social media in general. But making more things does not make me better things. Okay. It does not make the big thing that we've been doing for 20 years better. I know that I can manage myself more effectively. I want to make videos like the one I made yesterday on Hank's channel, where the writing was the whole thing, and I felt it all the way down and have been so enriched by people's responses to it. It's talking about his most recent video. Its sentence structure like confuses me a little bit. I don't know why though. And sure, I'm probably going to make dumb, unscripted, straight to the camera thoughts videos sometimes, and then I'll play connections. I don't know what that fucking means. Oh, then I'll play connections. I don't know, like, the stream of consciousness has been very, very, like, it's the whole thing with, like, stream of consciousness stuff is, like, that's what's popular in the fucking algorithm. Like, that's literally what I'm doing right now, is just constant sort of stream of consciousness. I get the sort of take, I take a look at it, blah, 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 and then I just say my fucking positions on it or something. That's like really about it. I'm just a fucking take factory, I guess, for lack of a better term. But mostly I need to come to terms with the fact that the level of dopamine I've been getting from interacting with LLMs, with doing more and more and more and more and more, is not healthy for me or good for the world. It is careless and has disconnected me from where people are on this. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is by design by a lot of these AI tech firms and companies and whatnot, is they want you to get hooked, so then you buy the subscription and then they're able to further monetize, right? We've seen like all the videos of like the chat GPT boyfriends and fucking girlfriends and the AI companions and all this bullshit, and I'm gonna be honest here, that shit is just period, end of story, bad and evil. I've talked about this concept before, but the current sort of vestige of human experience that the bourgeoisie is looking to monetize now is social interaction on a base level. And the AI companies, the companion companies, have made it very, very clear themselves what the purpose of these AI companions are. It's to make it such that you sit there and just waste a bunch of time. Wasting time that could be contributed to doing literally anything else. Being able to, I don't know, go to the gym. Being able to learn, say, a particular, like, recipe or something. Maybe engaging with that, like, podcast or something on social media that caught your attention or something. It's meant to destroy human connection and the human experience. I do really believe that a lot of these like AI companion things are a crime against humanity, and they are incredibly evil, and everything should be done in order to push back against them. I was talking about this with Catherine last night, and she did not pull any punches. Frankly, neither did John. Neither of them think I've been being healthy. Okay, I need to readjust. So what changes? Expect less Hank's channel. It may need to pause for a while. It may be that Hank's channel comes back with writing and research support. It may be that it comes back with just way fewer videos. I mean, he makes a video a week or something. I don't know. Maybe he'll do like a video every 2 weeks or something. I'm not sure. I'm going to spend this time finishing a video I've been working on for ages that I think it really, really matters. Smush and 4x3 are getting paused as well. Wait, Smush is a fucking channel? The fuck is 4x3? Why does he have all these channels? Okay. Maybe he's just like overworking himself or something. I have no idea. If there are bugs, there are bugs. I have a backlog of 4x3 boards right now, and frankly, writing them is usually a solace to me. But if we run out, I'm not going to worry about that. So if it just reverts to a static board one day, that'll be that. I do deeply want to support a good store and Complexly in whatever way I can. So there may be some stuff on the front, but the reliance on me has always been risky. So we may need to build for that as well. I'm very sorry for harming the thing that this was all based on. Okay, so Kank, I think, is grappling with something in a very base fundamental level, and that is the sort of like environment, social media environment that we find ourselves under, and is overworking himself because of that. I think that's what we're sort of grappling here with. I don't know, we'll do like a quick skim through of the Dixerta article to see if there's like anything else, let's just say, that I found. Hank Green relied on generated notes. Backlash began after a clip circulated online with some viewers claiming Green appeared to read feedback produced by an AI chatbot. I believe it's this. Troubled Hank Green calls out Mark Rober and now read deepfake YouTube channel. Okay, fascinating. Future Hank segment. Future Hank. I appreciate the pushback for expanding on a disagreement. That's the clips that we saw earlier from here. This disagreement from his conversation with Soupy Time. Critics claimed the wording sounded like ChatGPT responding to a user who had challenged one of its answers. because yeah, the flow, like I said before, it's just like the flow of it was just like really, really weird, right? And that's like a thing with ChatGPT and generative AI answers. It turns out like the flow of a conversation is just like very, very weird, and that's what I'm also sensing as well. Green responded by checking his notes and script from the episode. While he denied the specific line came from ChatGPT, he confirmed that AI had been part of his research process. I did use ChatGPT for research on the script, he said, adding that he had been relying too much on generated notes. He calls it a bad habit that developed when he was overcommitted producing the episode under a ton of pressure. I really do think it sounds like he's relying on ChatGPT because he's like working himself. That's what I'm saying. He maintained that neither his notes nor the script contained the disputed phrase. Green said that it was an ad-lib phrase, reference to Soupy Time, pushing back against his earlier claim. Okay. I produced this under a ton of pressure, so I went and checked my process from start to finish. I did use ChatGPT for research on this script, and watching it, I definitely get an AI feel. So I think it's fair to say I was relying too much on generated notes. That's the thing I've been doing, and it's a bad habit at a time when I overcommitted myself. But I just went to the notes and the script for this, and neither contained the "I appreciate the pushback" line. So that particular moment was an ad-lib reference to my guest pushing back on me, saying that words are purely made up. Okay. The problem is that he's fucking rich and he can hire a research assistant. That's true there, Boy Meets Minnie. I guess maybe he feels like he can do his own, like, research or something. I mean, sure. I don't know how much money Hank Green makes. Probably a decent amount. Whatever. I don't know why he doesn't have a research assistant. Sure, I mean, we can quibble about that or whatever. I mean, given the fact that all the monetization schemes within YouTube are all just, like, completely knackered, because of the fact of all the generative AI slop that exists on the platform, can we say for certain that he's as rich as he is and making as much money on the platform that he is? I don't know. Who knows? I mean, we could speculate till the cows come home. That doesn't really matter, to be honest. Full supports that sequence of events. UB Time challenges screen for the video cuts to the later segment. The distinction did little to calm the response. Morning of July 38th, Green's post had attracted nearly 3 million views, while several critical replies received thousands of likes. Hugely disappointing. Another accused Green of throwing away his credibility as a science educator, while others questioned whether the information in the episode could be trusted, given that ChatGPT can produce inaccurate or fabricated claims. Yeah, this is true, by the way. And here's the thing. ChatGPT itself will list its sources for a lot of the stuff. The problem with like generative AI in terms of being able to use it as research and research notes, broadly speaking, is that it will create amalgams of various research papers and also articles that may be completely incongruent with one another. They could be talking about similar topics, but the way that an article is sort of like constructed in a particular way, the way that the conversation within the article is supposed to flow, the things that even the particular reporter is saying can be completely different from that of what another reporter is saying or another researcher is saying about a particular fucking topic when they're writing, which is why using generative AI as research notes, not a good idea. Adding to these concerns, several viewers pointed to the seemingly unusual number of fact-checking notes inserted throughout the episode. Yes, that's also mentioned here as well. Well, 2 of them here specifically, but perhaps there are more. Not that it really matters. The card's questions are said researchers could not verify the claims about cat saliva and grooming, mantis shrimp prevention, and artificial sweeteners. Much of the criticism has focused on Green's position as a prominent educator and complexly stated mission of producing trustworthy, fact-checked content. And using ChatGPT as your research notes can certainly throw a wrench in that in particular. Green has not revealed which positions of his research involved ChatGPT or whether any information generated by it appeared in the finished episode. Fascinating. We don't need to go through this bit here. We already read Hank's response on the subreddit. But yeah, I mean, like, what is there? What else is there to really say about this? I think my assessment on all of this is I think Hank Green, if I were to take a guess, probably felt some kind of pressure to be able to put out more content as a byproduct of the fucking algorithm. And as a result, decided to rely on generative AI, ChatGPT, in order to be able to create a bunch of his notes. For what purpose exactly? To be able to get that necessary content out there in as quickly as possible, for the simple fact that given the social media environment that we find ourselves under, you need to be able to get stuff out there as quickly as possible in order to benefit SEO, benefit algorithm, and, well, benefit the channel as a whole. I think this is, like, mostly, if I were to take a guess, just a byproduct of him probably overworking himself, and also the social media environment that we currently find ourselves under. I'm being as charitable as possible here. Because I don't think there's like a reason to be like an asshole to Hank Green in terms of all this. I don't think that's like really warranted whatsoever, because like, did he do anything like particularly like morally egregious or wrong? I guess in a technical sense, sure, but like it's not like the end of the world. It's just like, oh, this is kind of like really, really bad that you're using generative AI in order to be able to generate a lot of your research notes, which can produce inaccurate claims because of how the language models, generally speaking, work. And yeah, it's just not particularly a good thing in that sort of respect. But yeah, I think like, I don't know, if we want like a solution to the problem, don't rely on AI that much, and get like a research assistant in order to help out or something, if the financials allow for it, of course. But yeah, I think that's really the only like final prescription in terms of all of this sort of, I guess, drama, for lack of a better term, sort of entails. But yeah, I don't think there's like really much else to say besides generative AI is still the fucking devil, and it's all for these bourgeois fucking dumb fucks to try to take away people's ability to socially interact with one another. I do hope I got my point across relatively decently well. I hope so. Because, I do think it's just like a case of a lot of overworking for like no reason, I suppose. I don't know. There's so many ways you can take a look at this and fucking speculate. Honestly. I don't know. This is what I think. I actually find AI to be the source of my overwork, but I have to use it to earn a paycheck. Well, yeah, because of vibe coding and shit like that, right? And that's also a thing that's been happening more and more. I think, like, there was a recent article that came out saying that 55% of companies have regretted using, like, generative AI in order to be able to replace all the workers and whatnot that they used in order to be able to create their sort of like product and whatnot. A lot of companies have been saying like, yeah, we should not be using AI. We kind of regret all this bullshit. And they said they're like talking about how they fucked up, which I find to be kind of funny. Had a surge of bugs lately, and QAs like me are finding all of them. Way more cycles of testing. Right. Had to fix someone's code that had bad validation logic for an ID field. 5-coded. Not exactly sure what that means, but I'll believe you. I'll just believe you there. Basically, it handled certain IDs wrong, and my test caught that shit. The vibe-coded tests missed that. Of course. Me being totally and utterly surprised. Alright. We'll get rid of these. Alright, lovely. Wow. Do. Alright. Let's fucking get started with this bullshit, shall we? He's been cooking with tech takes today on Twitter. Like, what, saying that generative AI is evil and that AI companions are also evil? Which they are. These are all factual statements because they are evil. Anywho, let's get started with this, shall we? Okay, I'm going to be honest here. I mostly just want to kind of learn what exactly is going on with the current Spanish migrant crisis of about 60,000 Moroccans being let into Ceuta, Spain, which is a territory held by the Spaniards within North Africa specifically. Now, if I were to take a guess, this probably has something to do with the maintenance of Gibraltar. Gibraltar is a very, very important waterway that gives access to the Mediterranean and the Atlantic Ocean, the wider fucking Atlantic Ocean. Quick little map here. This is Ceuta, right here, right on the fucking tip of Morocco here. This is Spanish territory. How that's essentially been delegated and whatnot, blah 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 blah. It doesn't really matter all that much. My fucking dumbass chat's in the way. There you go. As you can see, there's a fucking map about it. And here, another little fucking map about all of this from the Reuters article. If I can just get the map, please. There we go. Yeah, as you can see right here, yeah, Strait of Gibraltar. I know there's Gibraltar's right there. That's English territory. I know that for certain. But more specifically, it's this is it meant to help administer the Strait of Gibraltar between the Spanish and also the British as well, and probably alongside the Moroccans, if I were to take a guess. Again, highly important waterway. Having a bunch of random migrant boats there could have potentially adverse consequences for global trade. Yada yada yada. Not to get into the history between Spain and Morocco, because that's quite a storied history dating back all the way to the Reconquista and obviously the Caliphate of Cordoba, blah, 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 blah. That's a whole different fucking can of worms. We don't really necessarily need to get into that. But here, I just want to get I just want to vibe. I just want to understand, what the fuck is going on here exactly? Why are all these migrants coming up from Morocco? Is there a huge, fault me for not being exactly an expert on Morocco and whatnot, but is there like a giant economic problem or crisis happening within Morocco for as to why all these Moroccans are trying to cross into Spain or something? I know there's like the whole fiasco with the West Sahara specifically, and the Kingdom of Morocco is being, shall we say, particularly aggressive in terms of their ethnic cleansing campaign of trying to get rid of the indigenous peoples from within there in particular. So there's that whole fiasco going on there as well. Don't know, but the Moroccan government is quite authoritarian. Yeah, so them cracking down on minority indigenous populations makes sense, right? Yeah, EU/Europe has a fortress arc. It outsources refugee/migration of EU territory, places like Morocco, Turkey, North African states, etc. That is true, Karasu. Yeah, you're absolutely correct there. Because again, Syrian refugee crisis. Who took in the most Syrian refugees? The Turks. They took in over half of them. Half of them. Which was about 3.7 million, if I recall correctly, out of the, I think about 7 million, I think, something like that. Something like that. It's an outsources of cruelty. Yes, exactly. But here, why are 60 million people, 60,000 people, holy shit, trying to cross into Spanish territory?
People are describing...
Yes, Morocco is also part of the Abrahamic Accords, but we're going to get to that later. Yeah, Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan as well, but, you know. Lebanon, during the Syrian refugee crisis, Lebanon was about 800,000. Jordan was about 1.7 million, with, of course, the Turks taking the most during the Syrian refugee crisis. And then it was, in fourth place, it was the Germans with about 700,000.
Describing this as absolute chaos and a serious humanitarian crisis. In the last 24 hours, around 60,000 people have arrived on the beaches of Ceuta, an autonomous Spanish enclave in North Africa with a population of around 85,000. At least 40 people are reported to have died while trying to reach the enclave.
Very common thing that happens when a lot of these people make these crosses from like North Africa across the Mediterranean. They'll do like in the most ramshackle boats ever sort of like constructed. It's and they end up dying in transit. It's very, very sad. And like very often a lot of the coast guards of, say, the more far right fascistic sort of elements of, say, like say Giorgia Meloni's Italy will do anything possible in order to turn away those boats, guaranteeing a bunch of people just start drowning.
Some used inflatable life rafts, others just swam. Some were said to have scaled the border fence. The majority of the arrivals are migrants from Morocco hoping to enter European territory. Ceuta, along with Spain's other North African enclave of Melilla, makes up the EU's only land border with Africa. It's not immediate.
Probably like for, if I were to take a guess, colonialism, the outsourcing of migrant crises to Africa, blah 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 blah, a bunch of all the other bullshit. Yeah, I wonder what makes who made North African countries so authoritarian and desperate. I couldn't possibly think of anything.
Immediately clear why so many attempted the crossing, but it's not the first time this has happened. In 2021, 10,000 people entered the territory after Morocco loosened border controls during a tense diplomatic dispute with Spain. The president.
So that's kind of what I wanted to pause on here in particular. Tense diplomatic dispute of Spain, and one of the potential reasonings for as to why there may be some potential reasonings. Now, this is purely fucking speculative. I have no basis or evidence for this whatsoever, but Zateo may potentially have said that Trump and Israel are not fans of the Spanish government. I believe Hassan has also gone along with this talking point as well, saying that a lot of this may have been caused specifically by Israel. Now, the obvious problems with this are extremely, and I mean extremely fucking obvious. And that is the whole sort of like nonsensical great replacement theory memes that a lot of the far righters, generally speaking, have when it comes to the the Jews being the main people dumping a bunch of migrants in order to replace white populations, blah, 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 blah. Even though, like, Spaniards are very, 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 very fucking Mediterranean. But whatever. Do any of these people know or really care about that? No, they don't. Mostly because they've mostly not been to Europe. I digress, of course. Especially, like, southern parts of fucking Europe. Like, honestly, you could very easily make the mistake of most, like, Spanish people in the southern parts of Spain being fucking Arab because of how brown they are. But whatever. Consequences are byproducts of people not understanding how localized climates sort of work. I digress, though. But the idea... Okay. This is pure speculation. Obviously, the far right has been trying to frame this as quote-unquote an invasion of Spain. Stupid, obviously, but I'm very, very much so skeptical of the claim that this is being very much so spurred on by Trump and the Israelis. Like, I mean, I don't... Okay, let's not be surprised here. This is definitely something that they would do. For sure, 1000%, because of mostly out of pettiness, not because of whatever great replacement tomfoolery the schizophrenics basically would come up with. Mostly out of just like pettiness, mostly out of fucking pettiness, because of the fact that the lefty president of Spain does not like the fact that there's a genocide within Gaza, does not like all of the impositions that Trump is doing on NATO, and also does not like the fact that the United States is trying to use, air bases within Spain in order to further, help along with the fucking genocide happening within Gaza, or Palestine in general. So, yeah, because of those factors alone, that's why Spain and the United States are having tensions. Mostly because of the dumbest, pettiest reasons on the planet. Mostly because of really dumb, petty reasons, but whatever. The idea that, like, this is being something that's coordinated between Trump and the Israelis, I highly doubt that. I think that claim is extremely fucking dubious to begin with. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like this, but, like, I need some fucking evidence for this in particular, for the whole sort of, like, yeah, because Trump and Israel are not, fans of the Spanish government. Obviously, I can't see the further fucking claims here, and I tried to archive PH this. It didn't give me the full article, so I guess we can mostly say, yeah, we need some fucking receipts. And about 80% of the migrants have already been returned to Morocco voluntarily. I know there was, like, also a Nick Shirley video about this, of him obviously going in there and just, like, complaining. I know that, like, the military had to be mobilized for this as well, because, again, 60,000 people being sent to an enclave of about 85,000 is a lot, and is quite a fucking shit show, and needs to be properly sort of administered and taken care of, yada, yada, yada. I think they're just using this as the opportunity to attack. Who? The Spanish? Would there be any reasoning for the Spanish to want to attack the Moroccans? I have no idea, to be honest, Karasu. Maybe that's the case as well. We can honestly only fucking speculate. Like, I don't know. Maybe Morocco is just pissed with Spain being as anti-Israel as it is, or something. Like, who really knows? I mean, again, speculation can be done. Anyway, let's just continue with this.
The president of Ceuta warned state facilities are overwhelmed and hundreds are now sleeping on the streets. This event prompted concerns about a fresh migration crisis for the European Union.
I mean, it's not like as bad as, say, like the Syrian refugee crisis, but I mean, yeah, 60,000 people is a good amount of people who all of a sudden just like show up or whatever. But yeah, Spain is one of the most left-wing governments today. That's true, and it's true that there was a court decision to make the refugees. Oh, and the attack, I mean, Trump using the opportunity to attack the regime they don't like. Yes, okay, I was about to say. Makes sense. Because Trump would definitely do something like that. That's for certain. But here, more fucking, shall we say, talks about this. So about 60,000 migrants from Morocco were estimated to have entered Ceuta, Spain on Friday, with some swimming for hours for a chance to earn money and a new life in a new country. Migrants spoke to some stooge at CBS News. Only broadcast news report on the scene, about a social media post saying Spain's doors are open to them. What does this exactly mean? A random social media post saying that Spain's doors are open to them? I don't know what that exactly means. Maybe some like AI generated memes? What is this?
All these people have been told that they're not going to be able to get asylum here, so they're being turned around and sent back right there. No, they're not letting people stay. That's what the police have told us. Everyone, they're making everybody leave.
So is the claim that a lot of these dudes came because of like a random social media post or something, right? Is that the claim? So I don't know, maybe like, was there like an official account of this or something? Or because here's another thing, and this is something that's happened consistently. Yeah, it could be like social engineering or some shit. It could also be some like AI generated slop by some like far right winger, for example, as well, in order to, I don't know, like cause a crisis for a left leaning government, which is something that they would absolutely do.
But some people here in go to Spain. You can see, but most of them are walking this way because the police and the military have forced them to leave. The military says that they're not letting people stay, that you have to go back.
And well, I mean, based off of Zateo's claims, about 80% of the people have also been turned back as well. So, yeah, there's about 48,000 people as well.
About if many people stay here, no problem. So your hope is that you'll be able to stay here? Yeah. There's no problem. So you read a news article that said that if you came here, you could claim asylum and live in Spain. And you read that and then you decided to swim over. It said Spain is open the door. It said Spain has opened the door. This was on social media. On what, on Twitter or Instagram? Or? Facebook. Everyone wants to be here.
Oh no, the guy got this from fucking Okay, now now I definitely believe this is some fucking AI generated bullshit. This is from Facebook and fucking Instagram, dude, which has significantly loosened its moderation policies in terms of like generated fucking content. Yeah, this is I think this dude got potentially fucking duped into a fucking migrant crisis. Oh my fucking lord. And especially since those particular social media platforms are going to be more popularly used in well, that and WhatsApp, especially in that sort of like region as well. Like, man, this is what happens when you try to appease, well, Donald Trump specifically, in order to be able to, I don't know, like loosen your sort of like moderation policies to have like right wingers be able to post like their schizo fucking nonsense. Oops, you may have caused a fucking migration crisis.
Why don't you want to go home to Morocco?
No, Morocco? No, Morocco.
There's no money in Morocco.
See. If you have a family, like that, you can be happy all the life.
Do you have a family?
Yeah. My mother.
I'm going to assume because of the authoritarian power structure that's currently within Morocco, I'm going to operate under the assumption that young people do not have a lot of economic opportunities. Yeah, not a lot of economic opportunities. Important to understand that the heat wave that hit Europe really bad this summer also affected Morocco. Probably affected many of the North African countries as well. Like, what, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, you know, all of them.
But should do something to live a good life.
So you really want to leave Morocco? You don't care where you go?
So Spain, anyway. Just
Turkey, you just want to be able to leave Morocco?
Jabro just wants to leave Morocco because they fucking suck. Yep. Oh, 1000% there, Karasu. Yep, we've talked about this before, but like, for all of these like dumbass motherfuckers who constantly talk about like not wanting to have Arab migrants like coming up from the Middle East or whatever because they're all terrorists, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well then you guys should be some of the like, I don't know, most aggressive advocates for climate legislation on the planet, because in about 50 years the Middle East is going to be uninhabitable, and that's going to cause one of the largest refugee crises in the history of humanity. What is this, Boyman Smitty? Is this an article talking about this? Invasion Quetta is fueled beginning in early July by a social media campaign with 11 million impressions, with accounts coming from Algeria, Tunisia, and France, as well as comments from the United States. What are the posts themselves? European Union fails to react in Russian missile strike. Invasion of Quetta. I don't like this framing already here. It's an invasion. was preceded by an intense digital campaign carried out over several weeks on social media and messaging platforms. This is the main conclusion of an intelligence reporter prepared using OSINT, or open source intelligence and social media intelligence techniques. We all know about the OSINT accounts and whatnot, which chronologically reconstructs the evolution of a digital ecosystem composed of profiles, communities, and groups active in different countries, and which, according to the analysis, played a significant role in disseminating information, mobilizing participants, and circulating content related to the attempted mass entry into the autonomous city, that being Quetta, of course. What are some of the posts? Yeah, I wanted to see some of the posts. I'm curious. According to the report, activity began to intensify in the early days of July and saw a notable increase following the public release of the Supreme Court's ruling, which established legal precedent regarding the legal regime applicable to individuals entering Quetta by sea. From that point on, a gradual increase in posts, videos, and messages related to the autonomous city was documented, with the campaign reaching its peak intensity in the days immediately preceding Morocco's Throne Day celebrations. Interesting, okay? So this is the sort of structure, I guess, of what's being said here. Investigation identifies a distributed digital structure, that was the post above, which different profiles and communities assumed complementary lores. Some accounts focus their activity on disseminating videos and messages and at maintaining the attention of thousands of users. Others amplified that content by redistributing it across different platforms, like clipping accounts and all that shit. Yep, I know of this behavior. Significant findings of the report is the identification of a WhatsApp groups administered from numbers using the international prefix of plus 213, that being Algeria. Shared messages related to access routes, modes of transportation, schedules, and meeting places. Which is, by the way, makes sense that it's mostly done through WhatsApp, because in Europe, very commonly, there's a lot of WhatsApp groups, especially in a lot of the more MENA countries, and even in Asia as well. A lot of these people tend to communicate through WhatsApp groups specifically. And I always get random notifications from WhatsApp from weirdo sort of sussy groups and whatnot. Study also documents the activity of digital profile communities based in Algeria, Tunisia, and France, and the United States, as well as intense participation by profiles linked to Morocco. So it looks like the quote-unquote Israel narrative is not looking particularly great, but yeah, I guess these are some of the accounts. We get to see some of the posts, just some random videos. There's a random map here, some random footage, shots of the sea to try to throw out the scent. And oh wow, these are all the fucking accounts here that are doing this. Along with the study's key findings, the scale of activity achieved by this campaign, the research documents more than 11 million potential impressions resulting from the aggregation of views and audiovisual content. Members of digital communities, posts, comments, and interactions recorded during the analyzed period. From the report's authors, this magnitude demonstrates the extraordinary reach by the content disseminated across various platforms. Dude, it's unironically a migrant crisis caused by fucking social media, dude. This is fucking crazy. And yeah, these are all the accounts, and we get to see where they came from. And also their fucking names. That's fucking crazy, dude. Comparison that with previous episodes reveal a significant evolution in the use of social media as a mobilization tool. That's true. Report identifies greater integration across platforms, more intensive use of audio-visual content, and faster circulation of practical information, factors that, according to the analysis, reflect a higher degree of sophistication than that of observed campaigns. The analyst emphasizes that the conclusions are based exclusively on information obtained from open sources and on the analysis of documentary evidence gathered during the investigation. So again, since it's open source stuff, it may not 100% be 100% accurate, but I mean, they know the accounts, they know all the posts that these guys have been making, and I mean, some of them are a little weird, some of them are a little sus. And there's random fucking maps of routes being taken there. I think that's the thing that really is doing it for me. Why the maps with routes? That's very strange, That's the main sort of signal there. That's I think like the biggest red flag in there. What the fuck is up with the maps? What's with all the roads? Why are there a bunch of roads on these fucking maps? What's with like this weird ass like random route that's being like sort of outlined here by a lot of these social media fucking profiles? I think that to me is kind of the main red flag to be looking out here. And it looks like these dudes have successfully caused a migratory crisis for Spain for some reason. Now, ultimately, the biggest question is why? Like, why the fuck are they doing this? And who really knows? It's accounts originating from Algeria, Tunisia, France, and the United States. I don't think the United States or the French themselves have any particular tensions within the with the Moroccans. I don't think so. But those countries specifically, I believe, were part of the old French colonial holdings. I believe the Moroccans were for certain. I'm not sure about the Tunisians, and the Algerians, absolutely, right? That's for certain. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be... I don't think this is Israel either. But definitely a lot of stuff to do with LMs and spyware. Definitely don't disagree with that whatsoever. And social engineering as well. You know, we can definitely say it's quote-unquote spiritually Israeli, okay? That's the sort of meme. Okay, so I'm getting like a pretty good idea of what's going on here. So basically there was a social media campaign that was like social engineering a fucking migrant crisis into Kuwait, Spain, for reasons. I'm not sure exactly what the relationships that Algerians have specifically with, say, Moroccans, but I can only assume that's probably not good, right? Same with, like, Tunisians, right? Because I'm trying to see, where did the Tunisians also fit in all of this as well? Like, that's like the... Because what I mostly just don't understand is the why. Why? Why are we doing this? Is very, very fucking strange. That's like kind of... It could have been emergent though. Like, sure, yeah, like maybe some dudes were just doing like a little bit of trolling or something, and they wanted to like do some random social engineering or something. I have no idea. Like, there's so many fucking potential reasonings for as to what the that could have led to this sort of like migratory crisis. Like, who the fuck knows exactly? All right, CNN report. What do we have here?
Now, Spain is trying to defuse the migrant crisis in its tiny territory in North Africa. The Spanish government says an estimated 50...
May have been people who benefit from smuggling refugees or refugees themselves who are already in one place. That's true, yeah. It could be a bunch of, like, smuggling operations.
1,000 people crossed over from Morocco to Ceuta in a single day. Local officials say at least 34 people died, most by drowning, as crowds came across by land and sea on Thursday. Just take a look at these extraordinary images. I mean, Ceuta now juts out into the sea from Morocco and has long been a target for migrants trying to reach Europe. Here's a look. We saw a look at the chaotic scenes there. It's unclear what caused the sudden rush. Spain's Prime Minister suggesting it was fueled by a recent Spanish Supreme Court ruling on migrants arriving by sea. The surge is already deepening divisions over migration in Europe. The crowds, mostly made up of young men, celebrated.
So I am not 100% certain in terms of what the Supreme Court ruling is, but I'm assuming if it's people that are coming in via the sea, I assume they can claim some form of asylum crisis. And if I were to take a guess, a lot of these social media campaigns were taking advantage of that Supreme Court ruling in order to talk about the sort of like the doors for migration, for example, to be open or more open. For the Spanish doors to be more open as a byproduct of that. It could be misinterpretations. It could be a whole bunch of different stuff. I have no idea.
As they entered Spanish territory. Take a listen to what one young man was saying.
Very happy to be here. It's been a very tough experience to go from the ocean. It was very tough. The police officers tried
it could be scams,
us,
smugglers, anything. Tons of different stuff.
Came here.
CNN's Nada Bashir is joining us now live from London. And Nada, I mean, we've seen significant numbers of migrants cross over into Ceuta before, but nothing like this. 60,000 migrants, I believe, in just a matter of hours. What are you learning about the reasons for this surge that we've seen?
Well, it certainly was unprecedented, and you could...
Spain implementing a more humane way of dealing with asylum seekers. Right, which is, again, something that anyone can do under international law, of course. I mean, like, obviously it has to get, like, properly, sort of, like, litigated within the courts. It all has to get, like, taken care of, blah, 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 blah. But, yes, so that is true and can make it more attractive. And I think that's probably what exactly a lot of these, like, social media accounts were probably preying on, Karasu.
See that in how overwhelmed Spain's border guards and officials were in responding to this current situation. Officials on Thursday.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I mentioned that earlier as well, with Italy as specifically, because the Italian Coast Guard under Giorgia Meloni has been particularly aggressive in terms of a lot of the migrant waves that have happened coming up from, well, North Africa up into specifically the, well, into Europe as a byproduct of all the extremely destabilizing events that have happened in North Africa throughout the past, like, 20 fucking years.
Calling for the Spanish government to declare a state of emergency, and the government itself deploying additional troops to Ceuta in order to support in that response effort. As you mentioned, with regards to the cause behind this surge of migrants attempting to cross the border, and the figure at this stage is an estimate, but the government has put it now at around 50,000, they believe, crossing since Thursday. But as you mentioned, Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister, did give a statement just in the last few hours. He believes that human traffickers, smuggling rings, have exploited and misunderstood a Supreme Court ruling, which was handed down earlier this month in Spain, which essentially prohibits authorities from immediately returning migrants who have crossed into Spain via a sea crossing without due process. Now, it is understood that potentially individuals who crossed yesterday and even today may have been misled, that this meant an automatic or immediate acceptance of status within Spain if indeed they do cross over by water. And the vast majority of those who did cross over yesterday are believed to have travelled by sea. And of course, we've been hearing from some of those individuals, speaking to reporters on the ground, some saying that they were at sea for 2 to 4 hours even. And this was a very risky crossing as well. More than a dozen people at this point confirmed to have been killed as a result. So certainly a very worrying development. And this has drawn backlash, as you mentioned, from some European leaders with regards to the security of Europe's coastal shores. We've been hearing, for example, from the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who has threatened in her words to take extraordinary measures, potentially.
I wonder why Giorgia Meloni may be potentially very, very upset about this. I couldn't possibly think of any reason.
Excluding Spain from the visa-free Schengen travel zone if the situation is not handled. France's Interior Minister has also said that France is stepping up its security on the border with Spain. But at this stage, the Spanish government has said that they have maintained communication.
Well, yeah, that's a good point there, Karasu. Yeah, I also do not like CNN this much. Like, again, like, asylum is something that can be claimed via international law. Everyone, for example, can claim asylum for whatever reason. Ultimately, what has to happen is this gets worked out through the courts, it gets argued within the courts, and people can claim asylum for whatever reason because of, various sort of, like economic desperation. It could be because of, I don't know, like gang violence or like some kind of like political persecution. There's like a ton of different sort of reasons at all, in general, right? But of course, like, far-righters don't really give much of a shit about these distinctions whatsoever because they want zero migration to happen from a lot of these regions. And also, by the way, I don't know how many times this has to be said, but if the far right cared so much about stopping, again, all of the migrants they so care about stopping all the time, then guess what you should do? Help out all these fucking countries, because a rising tide raises all ships.
The Moroccan government and authorities, the communication has been smooth. And important to note, the Spanish government has said that already they believe around 25,000 of those migrants have returned back to Morocco, and they expect that figure to rise. Christina?
Well, it's 80% at this point in time. They've already been returned to Morocco voluntarily, so probably after hearing the social media campaign and how it's a misinterpretation of that Supreme Court ruling, they probably decided to leave.
Extraordinary and incredible pictures, images that we've been seeing. Nala Bashir, thank you very much. Let's bring in Judith Sunderland. She is the Senior Associate Director in the Refugee and Migrant Rights Division at Human Rights Watch. Judith, thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, just because the numbers here are so staggering, I just want to get your understanding of why so many migrants chose to make this crossing in just a matter of hours.
Right. Well, at this point, we can really only speculate as to how this came about. It is a very significant number of people, and that obviously poses enormous challenges for a very small autonomous city and for Spain in general.
Okay, I don't think there's really much else that's going to be revealed here in terms of the CNN report. They're just going to keep speculating when I'm pretty sure we know the reasoning at this point in time. It's because of well, some dudes like maybe not like orchestrating it, maybe for the benefit like smuggling operations, but some dudes posting a bunch of random maps of routes and advertising the Supreme Court ruling, probably purposefully misinterpreting it and causing a potential of a migrant crisis. I do think it was more than likely this. But, you know, final meme and all this is a quick fucking blurb in particular. Gotta shit on the far right here. So this video in particular was certainly making the rounds, of course, of, oh, quote unquote, man, this liberal Spanish woman waves in all the invading migrants. And all these motherfuckers were sort of like talking about, oh, yeah, dude, this one's liberal woman right here was definitely the main reason for as to why there was this like huge migrant crisis. They were claiming that this girl opened up like some door to let all these people in, and there's just no evidence for that whatsoever. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? But then again, we're talking about like far right weirdos here, and they have to have like schizophrenic conniptions about all of this. Yeah, there was like a bunch of conspiracy theories as well, like AI like slop videos, for example, by like far right accounts saying that, oh, this is all like great replacement theory stuff from Jewish people or whatever. Those are also a bunch of videos that were emerging as well. Shouldn't be really surprised by that, but whatever. Yeah, like I don't know, like why is this random girl here doing that wave there? Does that mean she's like quote unquote letting in the migrants? There's just no evidence for that whatsoever. Like maybe she's just like chilling there, saw a bunch of dudes coming saying like, yeah, you know, well, come in, whatever, who really gives a shit? Like it's just random spurious bullshit from a bunch of like random fucking like dumbass losers in the far right who just want to spin up a fucking great replacement theory like narrative in terms of all of this because they hate all fucking migrants. Should really go without saying. But yeah, what else is there to really say? I think at this point in time, there was probably some kind of migratory crisis that was probably caused by social media, which is kind of crazy to say. Well, maybe not like crazy to say, let's say. Yeah, that's a good point, Karasu. Yeah, who even knows if that's a real video? But whatever, moving on, of course. But yeah, like, we've talked about how, like, the Rohingya genocide was caused by Facebook groups and the people coordinating within, Facebook groups as a part of the Myanmar fucking government. Yep, oh, thank you, Pointsmini. And now we're also getting migratory crises also being caused by social media because of a bunch of content aggregators basically creating videos and posts saying like, oh man, Spain said its doors are all open, look at this like Supreme Court ruling, and it I don't know, gave people a bunch of false hope that they may be able to improve their sort of like predisposition in lives if they were to try to go into Kuwaita in Spain in order to try to seek asylum and build a better life for themselves in Spain, in comparison to that of Morocco, which is, well, fucking an authoritarian shithole in comparison to that of, well, European countries which have significantly better material conditions because of reasons. We all know why a lot of these like North African regions are authoritarian in the ways that they are. Looking at you, the West. But yeah, it was more than likely, it seems like this migratory wave was probably caused by some like weird socially engineered astroturfed campaign. Why did somebody do this, or a collection of people do this? I have no idea. Who really fucking knows? That's ultimately a different question that I'll probably never get an answer to. Maybe it was done by smuggling groups to get some more business for free or something. Who really fucking knows? But yeah, I don't think there's like really much else to say besides I guess social media is now causing random fucking migrant crises for some fucking reason. Kind of crazy to say that, fucking, migrant crises are now being caused by social media, I do have to say. It's kind of wild. But who are we reading out to today? Thank you for covering this. No problem, Karasu. It's very interesting that a migrant crisis is causing... a migrant crisis was created by social media. It's pretty wild, I'm not gonna lie. Pretty wild. To be fair, this had not been a new thing. Yeah, exactly, but... it's still kind of wild to see. Like, I mean, if a genocide happened because of social media, then, you know, this. Far-right people in Spanish far-right people doing salutes, that doesn't surprise me. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Rating out. I'm tired. I need to go to bed. Because I gotta be up early for the little one. Alright. Can I rate out to this person? No. How about I rate out to... Hungarian Chinese arrived after Tiananmen Square due to an agreement of no visa requirement to China and Hungary since the late 80s. They existed up to the early 90s. Brain. Let's rate out to Echoplex. Echoplex Media. Alright, dorks. Raid messages. You know what to do, you know what to say. If you are a sub, you say, you know, you've been blessed by Romanian Jesus with the Transstrider, the Daho Repa. If you're a non-sub, you say the Wowie, the Daho Repa, so we show appreciation to those who are Keys Gamers. I will be back tomorrow, and it's going to be big primary day. Oh boy, big primary day. Very cool, very good. And, you know, we'll see what happens with the primaries, of course. Yeah, Abdul Mentum, Hog Mentum, McKinney Mentum, you know, all the Mentums, of course. And we'll see what happens with the results of the primaries. See how that all plays out. And I don't know if we're gonna shit on centrist fucking losers or something. We'll see. Game, of course, more satisfying our factories. We'll be probably finally building our whole sort of like setups and whatnot. Very cool, very important, fantastic, excellent. And you gamers, I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, same face. Peace out, gamers.